Board. It's October 18, 2024. We have a very brief special meeting tonight, just dealing with a single agenda item, but I'll take the roll call. I'm Stu Hardy, Chairman of the Planning Board. William Gerlach.
Present.
Christopher Shriver.
Here.
Janice Gomes.
Present.
Richard Taylor.
Here.
Rosemary Eva is indisposed tonight. Patricia Hilton.
She's here. She's
present. She's
step away.
She's here. And V.A. Lopes.
Present.
Stephen Clark.
Present.
So we have a quorum, and we can start. The only thing we're doing tonight at our official meeting before our workshop begins in a few minutes is to recommend to Town Council that they extend for 1 month the moratorium which now exists on issuing special use permits, and this will give us another month to do our specific and objective criteria and/or performance standards for uses in all of the various zones in our zoning code. So updating the use table. And that would be an extension from November 30th. That's the date that the moratorium is set to expire at the present time. And we're asking Town Council to give us 1 more month until and through December 31, 2024. Todd just has a few words of explanation on why this is needed and where we stand.
I don't think too much more needs to be said beyond your introduction, Stu. You all know you've been working extremely hard on the use table and the criteria required for the different uses. Just with advertising, we're up against the deadline. We're not going to make it. So it would be my suggestion that you make a recommendation to the Town Council to extend the moratorium from November 30 to December 31, 2024. I sent you around a proposed ordinance amendment. I have it up on the screen. It's really very simple. We've done it once before. It's just changing dates.
So I would like to refer to Robert's Rules of Order, and I will make a motion to approve the ordinance amendments that Todd has provided to us and recommend to send that with a recommendation to Town Council that we extend the moratorium for 1 month. If I get a second, then we can have a discussion. We have a second from Chris Shriver. Now, is there any discussion on this motion? Hearing no discussion, all of those in favor? It's unanimous. And that concludes our business for our special meeting tonight. And so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And it's a privileged motion, so it doesn't require a second and
Second.
or even a vote. But let's vote. Good, we are adjourned. Workshop. And the workshop has several items. And the first item, which is 1A, I will ask Todd again to say a few words about that and what he'd like us to do tonight, if anything.
Okay. The workshop tonight is to, as you know, previously adopted the waterfront zones and the uses there, standards for those. We subsequently had our marathon session where we went through the entire use table, standards for those uses. I've now combined all of those into one table in one full-blown comprehensive ordinance amendment, I guess we'll call it.
Yes, thank you. That was very helpful to see it all together.
Good. So since we've done all of that, we've picked up on a few other corrections to make. I can go through those with you. We can discuss those, but I'm hoping that we can do this quickly. Okay? I also needed to, well, as we go through it, I've highlighted the changes that I've made. Even changes, what I want to talk to you about are changes that I've made since I sent you out the email. And before I do that, I corrected the district use table. And I meant to send you this district use table on Monday. I included the wrong attachment. And I apologize for that. Dick, I know you like to have more paper, so. And on this district use table, you'll see we have the form-based code zones. And where a form-based code use was permitted by special use previously, I've put an S in brackets next to the current no, okay?
Is that different than the email that you sent on Monday?
This was not included Monday.
Tree.
I meant to send that on Monday.
Okay.
Okay. I think we'll start with, I'm gonna call them the text amendments rather than the table first, if that makes sense. Okay? The first 2 pages are an introduction to the town council as to what articles are being amended and just a blurb as to what those amendments are. Since I sent out the email to you, I've added amendments to Article 1, and I'm creating a Section 5. And this section is going to exempt the town from zoning ordinances for governmental functions. This is a pretty standard provision in zoning ordinances throughout the state. It just makes sense, and it follows the case law. All right? And it also comports with what you've done as far as fire and police buildings as a use, for example, making that permitted in all zones. It comports with what we talked about with public parks, for example. Why are we going to make the town go through hoops? All right? And then you'll see later on I have a new definition for a municipal recycling center. We can talk about why that's being added, but it's simply because the town is creating its own municipal recycling center. So we just want to codify it and make that a permitted use, and I have that in the use table as well. Permitted use only for the town, and the definition you'll see is very specific as to town of Tiverton use, okay? A corollary to that, though, I've added a prohibited use of a, quote, recycling center to Section 15. Okay? And also we have a definition for recycling center. I think I did that. So if we go through this, this is the highlighted section here is the new language exempting the town from the zoning ordinance for governmental purposes. And I can make this bigger. Any questions about this? I can read it if you'd like.
No,
I'm fine.
I think everybody's good with it. It makes a lot of sense.
Okay. All right, so the definitions, this is so you can see what we actually did with the definitions. We took out the numbers, put them all alphabetically. We've included a definition for accessory dwelling unit. That's the exact definition from the state statute. So we have at least something on your books here. I'm not saying it's good, what the statute has done, but there it is. We had a definition of boatyard / marina. I know I struck it out here, but don't worry, Trish. It's down below as marina - boatyard because that's what the use is in the table.
Right.
All right? Let's go.
Could I?
Yeah.
I had very minor, like a
No, please.
super duper minor comment. If you were to
This is why I want you to.
scroll up to community residents. And this is just, I'm just trying to make it copacetic with, or consistent with sort of DEI-related language.
Sure.
So, B is fine, where we say persons with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
In sub-item A, can we change what is there to say whenever 6 or fewer children or adults with developmental disabilities reside? So we're leading with children, like, it's the individual who has the disability. It's not a disabled. So
I have no problem with that, if everyone agrees.
it's super minor. The nomenclature used in B is the preferred nomenclature.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, persons with disabilities,
All
right?
right.
So,
So children or adults with disabilities?
or if we need to specify developmental disabilities.
Everybody's fine with that? Good.
Thank you.
Sure.
I have just a silly question, and I don't know the answer to this. Are developmental disabilities, does that include physical disabilities as well as?
I believe it's what the statute uses.
I just wouldn't want to create something where, you know, where someone was excluded because it wasn't considered the right kind of disability. But
Well-
if that's what the statute says, then it's fine.
Yeah, if that's what the statute says, it's fine. In B, it's struck, right? We're not qualifying the type of disability, right? You can see mental or physical. So I don't know if A needs to specify developmental, or we just say children or adults with disabilities. I don't know, like.
I didn't
because-
come up with developmental disabilities myself. I would have stole that from
I
the,
think the reason, right, because the first is 6 or fewer, the second is 8 or fewer. There is a different level of care for people who, let's say, have developmental disabilities, but also have physical disabilities versus somebody who might just have a physical disability. So I think that's why that number, because you want no more than 8 and no more than 6 because of the amount of people that are required to care for them. So I think that's why there's a delineation. So I think this is fine.
31.
I
I
don't
So I
know,
think
I
the
don't know why they
change
have
is
two
fine.
sections.
I do it
So
every
as long as
time.
the second one doesn't say developmental, so, because it shouldn't,
Community.
then you're fine.
Okay,
Community resident.
Okay.
I'm good with that.
So the state law reads as the first one, whenever 6 or fewer children or adults with intellectual and/or developmental disabilities reside. And then B just says disabilities.
So why don't we just mirror exactly?
Actual or developmental.
Yeah, that's what it says.
There you go.
Okay.
It says intellectually and/or, but I don't know if that,
Intellectually, LY.
yes. No, I'm sorry, intellectual and/or developmental is what it says.
Okay. Good.
And then the one related to group home just says with disabilities. So now that matches state law.
Perfect.
Okay. Tell me when to stop again. It's- Marina or boatyard? Trish and I talked about this a little bit this afternoon in unintended consequences, and I think I addressed your concern, Trish, but take a look. The concern was that somebody would take that definition and just make it a boat storage yard. So we wanted to include a requirement that there be docks and/or moorings associated. So it would be area of land and water designated for storage, etc. and which has docks and moorings for vessels. Trish?
Yes, I think that's good. I did pull up CRMC's permitting guidelines, and they do refer to these as recreational boat facilities, recreational boating facilities. And in their case, to be a marina, you have to have 5 or more. But it specifically says for recreation, primarily for recreational boats. I don't know if we need to add that or not, but.
I don't think
As
you want
opposed
to.
to commercial.
Right. You have a commercial pier.
Right. We have a commercial pier. That's not a marina.
Right. You tell me.
I mean, I think it's probably fine the way it is, as long as it's a requirement that you have water-based storage, not just land-based storage.
Which has docks and or moorings. Chris?
That makes sense.
This is your area, not me.
No, I like that.
Do you feel we need to specialize, not special?
I like the
Specify.
correlation between water and land association for sure.
Okay.
But do we need to specify commercial?
Or recreational.
Or, yes, I meant recreational more than commercial.
As long as you have the ability to have commercial there, yes. But do you need to specify one or the other? Is that the question?
If you specify it as one, you can't do the other.
It's how CRMC permits them.
I'm sorry?
It's how CRMC permits them. I think it's probably okay. I mean, if you wanted to put the language primarily recreational boats, I don't know. Or you could put language in there, you know, that requires they have to be permitted by CRMC, which is state law. I mean, you can't open up your own marina without
Wouldn't CRMC have to permit a commercial
yeah,
marina as well? So
yeah, they would.
that
I think
doesn't
this
add-
is okay. I just.
I do too, I don't think you need
I
to.
think
Well,
this,
chasing
I think this
it.
is fine. We just want to make sure that somebody doesn't have,
Do you want to prohibit commercial vessels?
No,
Okay.
No,
All right, then let's leave it.
okay.
yep.
But I do, when we get to it, I do think we need to add something in the performance criteria for this item.
I did.
Oh, awesome.
Todd, before you go any further,
You found something.
under Conservation Development Project,
Way back there, Janice. A lot of scrolling.
Once you're 2 letters removed from the
You can't go back.
There's no going
It's
back.
vested, forget about it. Conservation development, yes.
see that in the second line, project is a tool, shouldn't that be project tool to allow?
Conservation development is a subdivision or land development project. Land development project. Tool, correct. Is a subdivision. Project. Subdivision.
I think you just strike out is a.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a little awkward, it's,
You don't.
Someone's phone might be near a microphone or something.
Yeah, but you don't need to record this.
He wants to.
Okay.
Well, no, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
But I was just here for the special meeting.
Exciting stuff. Is that it, Janice?
That's it
Okay.
for the moment.
you were at the ends.
If you go back to that. A conservation development project isn't really a tool, right?
Conservation
Conservation
development
development
is the
in
tool.
and of itself.
Conservation development is the tool. A project is the action.
This is existing language, right?
Yeah, it is.
Why don't you, I like conservation development project, maybe just say it's a subdivision or land development project.
That allows.
That allows
that
the
allows the
flexibility to
flexibility
design.
Or something.
And
those.
Yeah, that looks good.
Good, Trish?
We were getting close to it, but my next comment was when we got to mobile home.
Okay.
Also,
What do you-
just, I think there might be, not that I don't know if it matters, there might be a misspelling in the hookah bar lounge.
It does matter. Okay.
There should be an H after the second S. Shisha. Not that I knew this, it just came out that I misspelled and I Googled it, guys.
Shisha. Okay.
Mobile home?
So my comment slash question was, we have mobile home, which appears all new, and then below it is mobile home trailer park. And really, as I read through that, the only difference is the last sentence in the mobile home slash trailer park item.
Trailer park
Could,
refers, yeah.
I don't understand why we have two. Like, why can't we go with all of the new definition that's above for mobile home and then add that last sentence? Trailer park refers to a site where mobile homes are located for purposes of long-term or transient occupancy up in the item above. Because as it stands now, we have all of this new great definition for mobile home, and then we go one below, and then we largely repeat a definition for mobile home.
I think I would do it differently, Bill.
Okay.
Leave the mobile home, have mobile home slash trailer park, and have a definition of just
The trailer park.
trailer park refers
Okay.
to a site
Yeah,
where.
sure. There you go.
Couldn't you just strike the mobile home from this definition? Like otherwise you're gonna have mobile home slash trailer park, whereas this really, if we're just gonna do the last one, this is just the definition of a trailer park. Now.
Right, so striking everything highlighted there, right?
And then mobile home.
And then I would strike mobile home from the actual
Section
definition
title.
and move this to T.
Now
And-
you're getting complicated.
I'm sorry, but then you're just leaving it as a definition of a trailer park.
Except that, didn't John tell us there's a difference between a mobile home and a trailer? And there are trailer parks.
There's a
that are not.
difference between a manufactured home and a mobile home.
But when it comes to the park thing, right, there are recreational trailer parks where you go for a week and hook up your trailer. Do you know
It's
what
a
I mean? They're-
campground.
Yeah.
what?
I think what's throwing everybody off is the slash, so it should be mobile home or trailer, as in, like, because the issue
Mobile
is it's
home or
mobile,
trailer
it's mobile
park.
home park
Or,
or
right,
trailer
because they're
park.
two different, because
Yeah, I
they're,
think
they're.
Because this is
Slash.
defining two things at once.
Yeah.
Which is both a mobile home and what a trailer park is.
Well,
Right.
now though, to your point.
You take out the
or
slash, it's
If you take
VA.
out
And
the
make it-
slash,
yeah.
this is now.
I agree.
And it
Then
should
it's a
be-
mobile home or trailer park.
Yes.
Right,
And the definition is that is the location where you put the mobile homes and trailers.
or trailers, yes.
Right.
In the definition, to that point, do we call trailer parks refer to a site where mobile homes or trailers are located for purposes of long-term or transient? So this way you cover both of those.
I think you do. I think in the sentence you're leaving, I think that sentence reads, mobile or trailer park refers to a site where mobile homes or trailers, and then it covers both,
Right.
whatever you call it.
Right.
I know this is a dumb question, do we want to put a quantity? Is it two or more, is it one or more, like?
Would have to be more than one, because one is just a mobile home on a lot. It's not a park.
So is it two or more?
mean, this is,
I think that that's. I
this
mean, I
is
think what-
multiple, the way
Yeah.
it's defined. It's saying mobile homes or trailers,
Right.
so it's indicating it's more than one.
Right, but it's also a commercial business. So if somebody happens to have 2 mobile homes that they keep in their yard, well, but if you're charging rent or, people have to pay a fee to be there, or they have to, become part of the homeowners association, then it's obviously a commercial entity and it's on the no list.
Is that what you wanted?
I think that's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Here's the definition for municipal recycling center. A facility where the town of Tiverton accepts materials and goods from its residents.
Stop again when you go to recycling center
Yep.
as opposed to municipal.
Yep. Is this definition okay?
That's fine. Yeah.
And I'll give Mike credit. He talked to Rick Rogers today about that.
Do we
You're
need to stipulate
Sir?
all those individual items? I mean, that's something that could be changed fairly easily.
It says including, so
Yeah,
It's descriptive, it's not to be
yeah,
it's not limiting.
yeah, okay.
Recycling center, whoa, sorry. Recycling center, pretty much the same definition. I took out town and town of Tiverton.
Would you stipulate a commercial facility?
Yeah, I would say a private or commercial.
My question about that is, if somebody can refresh my memory, I don't believe we had that on the prohibited list. But where are we permitting it?
It's being added.
I've added it to the prohibited list now.
Good, okay.
So
Excellent.
my next question, though, is if we do have, what about, like, we have a metals recycling business on Book of Marsh Road.
Okay.
So
Is it metals recycling or is that auto salvage?
it's metals recycling. It's next to,
It's down the street from the
yes.
auto place.
Yeah, why am I totally blanking on it? It's
It's
been here my
near
entire
the
life.
intersection of Fish and Bulgamarsh.
Yeah, so just,
It's called Sanford's.
yeah, Tiverton Auto Parts is what it's called. Go further south, and on the left is a metals recycling.
Okay.
Does this, if that's on the prohibited list, then we haven't established,
Pre-existing non-conforming.
okay.
Right.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it can remain.
Is yard waste considered a recyclable?
This came from Rick.
What, I'm sorry,
The
what
yard
was the
waste.
question?
Is yard waste recyclable? Yeah.
Turn it
Well,
into
yes,
compost.
turn it into
and-
compost. Yeah, it's organics recycling.
It's not prohibited.
What about
so-
construction and demolition
Different,
debris?
that's different. Different stuff.
Do we need to put that somewhere?
Perhaps, but it could be interpreted by the zoning officer to be used similar to that.
Do you have to put something in there that you're not allowing any hazardous waste materials?
No, because
Yeah, we've already prohibited hazardous waste somewhere.
So-
Can I make a suggestion? Don't use the word compost,
it's a yard waste.
just yard waste.
That's all it says.
Because compost has some very strict regulations in state.
Yeah, and there is a big push at the state level to try and address organics recycling more because it makes up such a huge amount of the waste stream. And when you put, in particular, food waste into the waste stream, it breaks down anaerobically, it releases methane, which is a more potent greenhouse gas, blah, blah, blah. So there is a concerted effort to try and figure out a better scalable solution when it comes to municipal and state composting. So I would be concerned if we're putting language in that may come back to bite us in our attempt to play a part in helping to address organics and food waste composting in the future.
So, Bill, the solution to your concern would be to simply remove the word compost.
It's not in there.
Yeah, it's not in there now. I heard it come up, so I just wanted to
So you,
basically advocate for,
to not include compost.
correct.
Okay.
Well, I will say this, we have had issues in the past where somebody was composting in a residential neighborhood, and that can be problematic. So at some point, we should.
Well, there's RIDEM, there's all different levels, there's 3 different levels of like, you're supposed to get permitted, right? Depending on the amount of yards of finished compost that you are producing in any one given year, right? There's different levels of RIDEM permitting there. You know, there's backyard composting, and then there's different levels of, sorry, I don't mean to sort of send us down a road, but, yeah.
Are you good with this?
Yes.
Everybody's
Everyone else
good. Everybody's good.
Yep.
That's it for definitions. Zoning districts. Before, you will recall, we added the W2 zone and redefined waterfront as W1 zone. That remains here. But we've also now added the 3 form-based code zones. And I took those descriptions, except for the highlighted part, right out of the form-based code regulations. The highlighted part is the same in all 3. And it's an attempt to address concern about somebody changing a use in one of these zones and not being regulated in any manner. I don't know if this accomplishes that or not.
My only question on this pertains to what we are supposed to talk about in the second agenda item for this workshop, which is the consolidation of these.
Yeah.
Right, so maybe it's okay to go forth like this now, but we're getting to an end that will probably require us to come back and address
Right.
that at some point.
Agreed, and it's gonna be duplicative work,
Yeah.
but we need to get to the council.
Totally fine, I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure everyone was
So,
like, okay.
I agree, we probably
Yeah,
shouldn't
yeah.
spend too much time on it, if
Yeah.
you don't want to.
Then I would say let it alone.
I thought we were sending to the council just the waterfront by itself first, and then
No.
later this.
No, the marathon session and the waterfront. So it can, because it all has to be done by December 31st.
Okay,
Well, that's what we're hoping for now.
okay.
It's not going to get done otherwise, there's not enough time for the advertising.
Yeah.
What do you want to do?
I would say leave it as is, and we're cognizant of the fact that we're gonna have to come back and address it.
Okay.
That's my
I
opinion.
just don't know if that's going to get done before the end of the year.
No.
Ashley?
You know, I'm not too concerned about it, because when you consider that particular portion of Tiverton along Main Road, you know, I don't think a lot is going to be getting developed there anytime soon. So I think we will have time to go back and make any adjustments that we need to make.
Except the 2 items that are before us now. On Main Road, up and neck of the woods.
Right, 439.
Besides those,
Well,
I tend to agree.
besides
Three
those-
thirty-one and 439.
Right, but when you get north of there, there are not many, spaces left to do much. Well,
I mean, this is, I would look at this as like an intermediary step between the end result, which I think is to consolidate the district, but let's get it in there and add it to the table so that when we have to finish the specific and objective criteria, it's all in one location, and then we can come back around
Right.
and take a little bit more time to look at consolidating that district,
Right.
what that definition looks like,
So
and
this
all
is
the
a safe,
pieces that
this
go
is
with
just a
it.
safeguard.
This is just a step in between to make sure it's there for now until we can get that much further along
Yeah.
and finalize that piece of it.
Yeah. Everybody's good with that? Okay.
So, since so we won't be changing the map for the form-based code. It'll
Not-
be the existing map
Not now, right?
is the part of this.
The future land use map doesn't need to be changed,
No, but if
The
we
zoning map.
consolidate
but the zoning,
if we consolidate, eventually we consolidate the zones, and the zoning map has to be changed, and then the butters have to be notified.
Yes.
right,
But that's not.
But you
not
won't
gonna
have to
that.
change the future land use map for that. It's already identified as a commercial
Commercial.
area.
yeah.
Okay?
We're okay? I'll say this is an attempt to, some would argue that the form-based code regulations are not enforceable. I think otherwise, but this codifies it more for you. Okay?
This puts the districts in your zoning ordinance. It references the document.
Right.
Right, so we won't be challenged as we have been in the past.
Okay, and here we are with the prohibited uses. I've added to the bottom of the list, recycling center,
Good,
okay,
yeah.
right? District dimensional regulations, this is for all zones, everything you've adopted since June through now, and I've included at the bottom the form-based code, dimensional regulations.
Well, that's one thing we have to talk about tonight, right?
Right, and we can certainly change this.
Okay.
If you decide to. We have the waterfront 1 and 2, industrial, and then the form-based code zones. Okay? They're there. I can easily amend them if you decide to change the dimensional regulations this evening. Okay? Yeah.
I did have one question about the footnote
Yeah.
that is tied to the form-based code, so that's footnote 4. And then when you get down to 4, it says for residences in a GCW
W.
or industrial district. Are we sort of, because we're not calling out the form-based code districts in and of themselves in that footnote.
The footnote is for the form-based code. Well, footnote 4 is for neighborhood business. Footnote 4 is for all 3 form-based code zones.
But the footnote doesn't reference, can you go back down to the footnote?
Yeah, it doesn't reference the form-based codes, it just talks about GCW or I.
I took it from the form-based code. That's how it is there.
Yeah, I
It
just.
probably
I was
needs to
just
be
like-
improved. I don't.
Yeah. It just didn't seem to match up in my,
Right.
maybe it's right, but at the surface, it just.
No, I mean, if you're footnoting the 3 form-based code districts, then that's what should be in there.
Right, because there are a lot of residences in those 3 form-based code districts.
Yeah, especially since they are being promoted as mixed
So,
use and
so
stuff like
the
that.
footnote is very confusing, but I think you could clean it up if you simply added form-based code.
Is the same footnote used for the GCW and I district, like up in the table, if you go to that district, is there
It
the same
does,
footnote?
it's almost the same as number one, footnote one in the page above.
Okay.
It might have been a copy and paste error, like inadvertently,
Yep,
That's footnote 1.
you know what I mean?
yep. Now I think it makes sense, because 4 is specific to,
The form-based code.
yeah.
Right. Good, that's a good catch, Bill, thank you.
That is the most detailed catch you're gonna get out of me.
Your job is done.
I'm done, I can leave.
You can
That's a
leave,
pretty good one.
or take a nap,
No,
whatever,
no, no,
whatever
no.
works.
You can sit back. and
Finish
eat
my
your-
dinner here,
You can sit
so.
back and finish your protein bar.
Understand, with the form-based code, I tried to just take it straight from the existing regulation so that we're not confusing anyone and we can more easily say, you're not changing anything, it's
Just
just the
moving it over.
location.
Yeah.
Todd, this is not a critique at all.
No, no, that was a great catch. So again, we have the building height that we did in the marathon session, or at some point.
Excellent visuals again,
Oh,
I will love those,
The drawings are very good.
yeah.
All right, now we're into the performance standards, which we have beat round and round, right? Did you notice anything that was wrong or needed to be changed?
I did not, I went through them all.
Right here.
Is everybody good with the performance standards?
Yes.
Okay.
For some reason, and I have a note, was there one of these things that we left accidentally hours of operation in?
I think you
Not-
did.
Not for deliveries, but for,
No, you did purposely leave hours of operation in one of them. I don't know where right now. Hold on. You're okay with the formatting, how this is set up?
I thought,
It was.
so,
Right there, I saw
I saw
7.
one.
and
I thought we, except for deliveries,
Up a
we were
little
gonna get
higher.
rid of all of the hours of operation.
That's my recollection as
So
well.
there's a 7 to 10 in the one under C, the first one under C,
They're in and out the
Where?
school ones
Go
too,
down.
I don't know if that
Oh,
matters.
C,
right
Okay.
there.
Right there, C2.
Under nonprofit organization, number 2, there's 7 to 10 is the,
If you want it out, I'll take it out.
In the document, the last one you sent on the 14th, there are 21 mentions of hours of operation. I don't know if,
Well, it's this same document.
okay. So,
Do you want the hours out?
I think so.
I don't care what you did before. We're here right now. If you want them out, we'll take them out or leave them.
can you refresh my memory as to why we want to pull them out? They'll be decided by town council, is that correct?
Because if they have any kind of liquor license or entertainment license, that gets set by the town, and the hours get set by the town. And, you know, we don't generally, unless it's a special use permit, we don't generally set hours of operation for businesses, like, it's just not. There's some code in the regular ordinances about things like, you know, lawn mowing and things like that. You can't start lawn mowing before a certain hour, but, I think this sets a weird precedent to be doing this just for the waterfront. I think there's a deliveries one that was okay, that I didn't have a problem with, like restricting hours of deliveries, but the rest of them, I think we just, you know, leave it
These
up
were
to
hours in
council.
the R120 and the waterfront zones. Just yes or no? You want them out, Bill?
We can take them out.
Out,
Chris? Janice?
Out.
Yeah, take them out.
out.
Take them out.
Consensus. What do you think, Janice? Don't
I
succumb to
still
the
have
peer
an issue
pressure.
with that commercial kitchen.
All right, we'll get to the commercial kitchen next. Hours of operation, gone?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. The whole thing, right? The liquor license portion as well?
yeah, because it's up to the council.
Okay. Okay, Janice, where's your commercial kitchen?
Number 4.
Number
Have to renumber those, Doug.
I am.
Or you didn't shift it to number.
Janice, what's the concern with the kitchen?
It's a nonprofit, they have to fundraise to make money. Whichever way they do it, I think if they want to put in a commercial kitchen, there should be some wiggle room in there for them to do that.
Well, this is a performance standard, right? So somebody could ask for zoning relief from this standard, correct?
Yes.
Does it have to be in there?
And Janice, I'll say this is only limited to the nonprofit organizations in the R120 and the waterfront zones.
Right. But
And we had a definition of commercial kitchen now.
I read it in there somewhere.
And that didn't make you feel better about nonprofit organizations being able to cook?
Yes. And if they're going to cook, to sell, to raise funds, it needs to be commercial.
Okay. Okay, well, what does the board want? This is not my discussion.
What is the rationale for not allowing them? Is it like a parking thing? Is it, does it trigger something else, or is this just pickup?
Well, in the R120 zone, you're talking about a nonprofit organization club that's in a residential zone. It's not in a commercial zone, it's in a residential zone. And, you know, on the waterfront, I don't think that there are very many places where that would work, but on the other hand, most of the waterfront is across the street from a residential zone. So I think that if you have the option to apply for relief, if you can make a good case that based on where you are, and where you're located, that it's not, whatever you're gonna do is not gonna be a
We say
nuisance for
dimensional
the
variance.
residential community that's around it,
Right, at
that
the
that's
beginning of
sort of good
performance
enough.
standards,
But
we
I
say
don't
dimensional
think that you
variance.
necessarily
I don't know what
want
else to do.
I don't either.
you know,
Having it by right.
having
So we
it by
define it.
right, not in those two zones.
Okay.
In other zones,
Until
it's
somebody
fine.
fixes it.
I mean, in any other commercial zone, it's
That's
fine.
funny.
Like
But
the
I
general
don't think
assembly.
it's like that
That's
residential zone. I don't think
hilarious.
the waterfront is laid out in such a way that it would be conducive.
Janice, I think the commercial kitchen definition it's a pretty high standard
It
for a
is.
large-scale kitchen.
Well, it doesn't have to be a large-scale kitchen.
But that's what we're defining a commercial kitchen as a large scale, or a preparation on a large scale.
But if they only have a small building, they can't do a large-scale kitchen.
Then it wouldn't be considered a commercial kitchen by our definition, I think is what Todd is saying.
Right, Stu gave the example of the yacht club, I think, Stu, is that correct? Where you have fundraisers, is that correct? Or what cooking do you do there?
Well, we don't have a commercial kitchen, which has to meet the new fire code now. We have just a regular, ordinary, like a residential kitchen. And so we are limited to bringing food in and then serving it. And we can heat it up, but we can't actually prepare food. And I think there's a restriction as well on any kind of money-making activity. I think it has to be, we just do events for club members and for others who may rent our facilities or use our facilities. So,
I mean, I think if the concern is that a nonprofit club, like a lodge or something, is going to not be able to, I don't know, host an event where like outside people can come in, if you read the definition of commercial kitchen, I don't think it will qualify. I don't think that that will prohibit them from doing it, because the definition talks about preparation on a large scale. The main focus is to prepare food for customers. They're found in restaurants, hotels, bars, and other hospitality businesses. I mean, if this is just an occasional event that these people are doing for fundraising or for whatever, I don't think that that will prohibit them.
Yeah, I don't see we don't have a problem at the yacht club with the restriction. And the reason why we didn't put a commercial kitchen is we couldn't afford it because the fire regulations at the
Yeah,
state level
it
are
talks-
just really strict about firewalls and all kinds of special equipment that you have to have now. But, again, I think that Tricia is right. If somebody does, run up against this, and they can make a case that they can have this event without creating a nuisance, then we'll grant them relief. So,
What do you think? Still concerned?
I'm still concerned about it, but do the majority.
Is the concern the equipment commercial or the activity of commercial? The function?
I know when I was working, when the Department of Health came in, I had to put in commercial sinks, hand wash, and that was just the beginning of it. Now, other senior centers throughout the state have commercial kitchens, just so they can fundraise within.
It really makes a difference though where that senior, I totally get your point, but where that senior center is located, right? Because
We just exempted the town.
For other nonprofits.
We're talking nonprofit.
Yeah.
okay, so
You don't know what it's going to be.
yeah, but even the cases like if the nonprofit is located in general commercial or
They can do the commercial kitchen.
or
And they can-
they can have the commercial kitchen. It's just R120 and waterfront where we're saying they can't, but they could come before the town, make their case, and get an exemption if they are in R120 or waterfront.
I think we have a consensus around the table. Sorry, Janice, you're in a minority on this one, but I think we need to move on.
Moving on? Okay.
Can you go back up for a second to the bottom of that one? I don't know why what sticks in my head is that we had talked about in the waterfront zone that any sort of social community lodge thing have a water-related mission. Never mind, let's just leave it the way it is. I'm good. Let's go. Let's keep going. Oh, go back up, I saw in hours.
I think you'll have to go through and scrub the hours.
Oh, that's
I
just-
think you specifically left this one.
Do I think we did leave that one?
Number 3, this is for private schools, pre-K through. Are we leaving the hours of operation?
Yes,
I don't see an issue with putting those there.
we agreed to that.
There's another one for
Junior
junior
college.
college.
That one's okay.
I feel like for all the schools, because then we started thinking about the education on the waterfront, and that the only way is through. Yeah, so I think all of these were.
So we're okay with hours at
Yes.
schools?
Mhm.
Pharmacy, which we discussed as a new use.
curriculum thing in there
Hmm?
that we spoke about? Waterfront curriculum has to be marine related.
Oh,
It is in there.
it's in there, we're leaving it in there. Other places have it, not in Rhode Island, in other states though.
Marina or boatyard, Tricia, I've added this number 4 in highlight.
Or off-season shall not exceed the aggregate number of docks, slips, and moorings. I think that works,
I think that's a good idea.
yeah. We don't want somebody who's got 5 moorings that they rent to have 37 boats shrink wrapped all in the parking lot, so it has to.
Everyone okay with that as a performance standard?
Mhm.
The last one that you sent out.
I don't think I had any other changes, though.
Can I just,
Yeah.
maybe we already blazed by
No,
it,
no.
but it's on page 44 in the version that I was looking at, and I know we're on. It was under mini storage facility.
Might have stacked.
Mini, mini,
So you just go for one, because you apply it all.
Uh,
Here we go.
Hold on, Bill.
Oh,
you go.
there it is, there it is. So here, I feel like I could be opening Pandora's box here. Sub-item 12. I'm not disagreeing with sub-item 12, but it is the only item in here where we dictate to such a nuanced degree the landscaping. So, where it's 12, 13, and 14 in aggregate, right? I have sub-items 12, sub-items 13, and sub-items 14. In particular, sub-items 13 and 14. Again, I'm not disagreeing with them whatsoever. I'm just calling it out as like, this is the only place where we apply such a level of specificity, right? So we call out in sub-item 13, the required vegetative buffers are to be composed of plant materials listed in the URI's native plant database.
I took these from, obviously, the solar ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah, I think our discussion, when the gentleman was here advocating for mini storage, your discussion was to include these particular items.
And again, I am totally fine. I'm just calling it out as a, like a, I don't know if this could come back to bite us, where in this particular use, mini storage facility, we are applying such a level of granular specificity, whereas in every other instance, we're like, okay, just an evergreen every 5 feet on center. You know what I mean? Like, we're not applying that rigor of specificity around it. Again, if the board feels like that's fine and that's not gonna open us up to any sort of issue, I'm cool.
I like it. I'd like it to stay in just as is. In fact, I'd like to extend it to some other uses maybe, but I have a slightly different issue, which is there are actually 2 different types of self-storage. There are the buildings similar to the one that is being built now in our business park. In fact, it's open. The last time I went by, it was open. It's a very attractive building. It's multi-story. Efforts have been made to give it a nice architectural look, particularly from Route 24. That's one type of storage. There's another I don't know if anybody knows Bristol, but on Franklin Street in Bristol, a really nice storage facility has been built there in a residential neighborhood. Part of it looks like a high-end apartment building, doesn't it? It's, so, okay, that's one thing. The other thing is what you sometimes see in Fall River or Westport, on American Legion Highway in Westport, for example, which is mini storage, which is 1 story high in like an elongated garage, hugely long, with garage doors at every garage bay. Are we making a proper distinction between those two things? We want the former, in fact, we've got the former, and we can make it look nice, as we have done in the business park. The latter, I don't think we want at all, and we had this discussion we had this discussion here, and previously, we had it at the zoning revision committee, and I think everybody pretty much agreed, we don't want the eyesore that they have on American Legion Highway in the town of Westport. That is
So
anywhere in town.
my recollection is that we drew a distinction, and do we have storage facility as a separate,
We have mini storage facility defined.
but not a storage facility? I thought we made, Stu, I remember the conversation, I thought we made the distinction between like storage facility, and then we somehow landed on mini storage facility to represent that single story, like garage bay
Yes, exactly.
design approach, which is why we got so, I guess, detailed around sort of the vegetative buffers and this, that, and the other thing. That's my recollection. I don't know if others remember that.
That's what I remember.
So we were trying to
Clean it up a little bit.
clean it up. I was gonna say put lipstick on it.
Right.
You know what?
Rather than just put mini storage on the prohibited list. I'm just throwing that out. That's what I'd do personally if I were dictator. But if you don't want to do that, then at least we need to be really careful about how we,
Well, your previous definition of mini storage defined it as a 1-story building
yes,
or buildings, which would have been exactly what you were talking about. The new definition took out that 1 story and just says a building consisting of individual self-contained units that are leased or owned for the storage of personal property. So I think,
so if we have design standards in commercial districts, including waterfront 2, we could pretty much, given the definition that we now have, we could pretty much not allow that ugly elongated garage look. Okay.
I mean,
So-
I think technically they're both considered mini storage. It's
Yes.
just how they're designed. So I
Yeah.
think you have to come at that from a design perspective,
Yep.
and we'd have to do it that way.
Yeah, okay, so let's leave it alone. Let's leave everything alone, just as we have it here, including all of the landscaping, Bill.
Yeah, again, I was just merely calling it out as, it's sort of
No,
like a
that's good.
unicorn among
Yeah, no, that's,
everything else there.
yeah.
So someday, I think, so that's out of the solar ordinance, which was written specifically because the existing solar installations that we have that went in under the prior solar ordinance did not have nearly
Did not
enough
have
solar.
adequate landscaping.
And they, planted stuff that hasn't survived, and now you've got, like dead trees, and it's not. And so requiring people to plant native trees that are native species that are gonna survive. But it might be that someday, when we get to our design standards, that these all, instead of being attached to individual uses, get attached to a whole grouping of uses, and it's just all in one place, and everybody has the same standard.
Totally
It's not
agree.
that far.
Totally agree.
Okay, do you have a consensus? We're moving on? Okay.
We have a consensus.
And now we're merger of lots. Oh, I've added this, we haven't discussed this. When you adopted the R120 zone, a lot of pre-existing, legal, non-conforming a lot of pre-existing lots, which were conforming at the time, became non-conforming. And people that had adjoining lots, vacant lots, would have seen those lots merge. Your ordinance has always provided that prior to the date of adoption of a new zone, right? That the pre-existing lots would continue to exist. We've done that here by changing the date of June 4, 2001, which was the last map change, to June 24, 2024. I don't think it applies to very many lots, but
That's a good
it's
idea.
the right thing to do.
It's the right thing to do, right?
And now we're into special use criteria. Discuss these often. I've not made any changes other than the way it's presented. And I made it mirror, for the most part, how we did the performance standards. Okay? So
I had no comments on this.
So cemetery, it's struck out here, but it's, you saw it below somewhere.
Oh, hold on a second. That whole section B, individual sewage, that's gone, like,
We talked about that, but we decided to just leave it for now,
we're gonna leave it alone, even though we have no authority whatsoever.
because we don't have a fix for it right now, other than to strike it entirely.
But but there isn't anything we can do about it. We have zero authority now. So there isn't a replacement. We can't. I mean, I'm gonna leave it in, but it's completely
Unenforceable.
unenforceable.
But we had that discussion and we agreed to leave it in.
If you're
We did
deciding
do
now to
that.
strike it, I don't
Why would you
care.
leave something in that's unenforceable? It should be taken out. State law clearly makes it unenforceable. Says zoning codes can't have greater standards than what BM requires. So this is supposed to make people's lives easier. So the code should reflect what the law is, not what you want it to be.
I mean, I just take it out just because there's no, I mean, Ashley, is there any reason to leave it here?
You can't regulate any of
You
it.
can't regulate any of it,
No.
so, I mean, the zoning code's got enough superfluous stuff in there as it is. If we can get rid of even a couple of paragraphs, why not? It's completely unenforceable.
I would agree with that, get rid of it. Just get rid of it. It's got the old name on it anyhow,
Yeah.
as opposed to OWTS.
I think that's where our conversation was, is that we talked about that and we were gonna get rid of it and then we were gonna change it to OWTS and then we decided just to not touch it for now, but you
We
can't,
did- we-
you can't
we
do
did.
any of what it says.
Ladies and gentlemen, we did make that decision, but we're changing that decision now, just to get rid of it. So everything goes.
Okay?
Besides the schools, there's one deliveries thing, right? Deliveries.
Anything else that you want fixed here? I'll make sure all the numbering is.
I don't have anything. Does anybody else have anything? Okay.
Okay. Scroll through.
Something about OW.
The OWTS deck? Where did you see that?
Up higher.
I just saw it.
That's all added new language though.
There it
There.
is.
Yeah,
Yep.
8.
Yep. That's for the bed and breakfast.
And that is something that the town can address.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I just caught a fleeting glimpse of the past.
So there's no issue there, Todd.
I think so. That one's okay, because that's a wholesale business, so we leave that one on the truck.
Okay, that's it for text. We're good? Tricia, you're good?
Happy as a clam.
I don't know about that. And now, the use table. I've oriented it landscape, combined every single zone that you presently have into one table. I've tried to include all of the notes. And, right, I just passed that out to you. We need to talk about the form-based code zones and what you want to do, permitted, special use, not permitted. Okay? I think we can do this quickly. As I told you, I've already put in brackets with an S, where it was special use prior to January 1st. For example, bed and breakfast was a special use in the pedestrian-friendly destination district. It's page 3. I need to know what you want to do now.
Well, if we combine the zones, there won't be pedestrian friendly.
We're not combining the zones.
No, when we, if we do, right, it won't be pedestrian friendly. Pedestrian friendly will only be over at Blissful Corners, if we do what we've been talking about, right?
Yes.
So,
So the collapsing of the form-based codes is only for north end of town?
Exactly.
Yes.
Just along Main Road from the
all of Main
Fall
Road.
River border down to Sousa Road.
I'm distinguishing that from Bliss Four Corners.
And Bliss Four Corners would be pedestrian-friendly destination.
that would keep the pedestrian friendly.
Okay.
But right now, you have pedestrian-friendly in the
In both.
north area, so just, how do you want it to be designated?
I guess just-
If you want to change it when pedestrian-friendly only becomes Bliss Four Corners,
I think
that's
that
fine.
might be better. I just then leave that as a special use permit, and you can go with the criteria that we have in the.
You have, right, you have the
If we
criteria.
have criteria, and just leave it.
Does everyone agree?
In pedestrian friendly.
And pedestrian friendly. Pedestrian friendly as it exists today, and then who knows where it'll be in the future.
How did Bliss Four Corners get pedestrian friendly? It's worth your life to try to cross the intersection.
We are aspiring.
We're aspiring to make it pedestrian.
okay.
There's barely any sidewalk.
Yeah, no, it's,
There's people trying to get in and out of the Dunkin' Donuts and going all over the place and trying to get to the gas station and all the businesses, the curb cuts, and people with the lights, it's like,
yeah.
Until they removed Geeman's, even their commercial it was in the street.
I know. So,
Okay, how about hotel? It was special use previously in all 3 zones.
well, I mean, I can tell you that the zoning update committee said no to a hotel on Main Road. And there's no place to put one over at Bliss Four Corners, so I would just leave those no.
You want those no's, everyone?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. Satellite receiving antenna. TMS and PFD zones. Page 4.
the other zones, didn't we just make those all no's?
Permitted in the industrial only.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that.
I think
that's
that
what-
we
I think we
just-
just made all the rest of them
No.
no's.
Is that the consensus? No? All right. Convalescent, rest, or nursing home? All three zones.
There isn't. I can tell you the zoning update committee said no on.
On Main Road.
I would agree with that. We don't have the parking, we don't have the space. There's nowhere along Main Road.
So is it all of them or just TMS?
There's no place to put one in Bliss Four Corners either.
I'd say no to all of them.
Is that how everyone agrees?
Yes.
The retirement residents, my assumption is that's gonna be the same as it would not.
Retirement residents?
Same thing.
Same thing.
It's gonna be basically
Ashley, you've been quiet.
I'm just following along with the consolidated district, so if you ask what did the zoning revision committee say, I can tell you.
Commercial raising of animals or fowl in the neighborhood business?
I can't imagine.
That should be a no.
No, everyone? Chris?
Yes.
Dick? Janice?
Yes, yes.
It's been quiet tonight, Steve. I don't know. Accessory building including a garage, greenhouse, stable barn, etc. PFD and neighborhood business.
That's,
You considered it permitted in the consolidated district.
yeah, in the consolidated districts, it's permitted.
It's permitted in the residential zones.
Yep.
I think it's all about the size here, in
There is a
the
size.
particular type of accessory.
There's a size restriction on the accessory
Well,
structure,
there's-
right?
It's an accessory building.
Accessory
so
structure.
It's not like a primary building, and then it's gonna have to meet the setbacks and the lot coverage
Yeah.
and all that other
So I
stuff.
feel like even if it is special use in pedestrian friendly in neighborhood, like there are factors that will control size.
There's a size
all that.
restriction on an accessory structure as well. Currently, there's a size limit, and it's a
small,
very random
eight-
number.
Eight
but
something,
it's-
876 or something.
Right, it's a weird, it's not a round number, but there already is a size limit.
So we'll make it special use, is that what we're saying?
So I would be fine keeping it as special use.
It would be the only districts you require it as a special use
We don't
permit.
have any criteria for special use for it.
And we'd have to create the criteria.
I think, we made it.
You have it permitted in the combined main road
In the
district.
combined one, we did. I mean,
But before that, before we had consolidated, we also had
I'm sorry, what's the combined main road district?
There isn't yet.
Oh, okay.
This is the theoretically combined main road district. When we get there,
Yes,
the
okay.
zoning revision committee has already gone through and combined that theoretically and decided what is permitted, not permitted.
What is the combination of those? Will that be PFD and NB? Is that the combined?
It'll
We'd
be
have to talk
TMS
through that.
and NB, and in the main road area, it will also encompass the PFD, but we have to leave the PFD because that applies to
Bliss.
Bliss Four Corners, so we're gonna leave that. It'll be the only place that it applies after
After
the
the
consolidation.
Is there a reason why we like to have 2 Four Corners in this town? Is it not?
Are we permitting it, the use?
I think we should. I
Okay.
mean, there's a whole bunch of restrictions on size and lot coverage and everything else.
And it has to meet the setbacks and all those things.
I agree with that,
And it
permitted.
has to be, it has has to be an accessory to the agricultural use that's permitted, and the agricultural use that's permitted, if you look at them. So example, you can't have commercial raising of animals. You can't have a commercial kennel or other fur-bearing animals.
Right.
But, you know, if you have, you can basically raise crops. So if you're gonna grow, you know, I don't know, you're gonna.
You have
grow
performance
tomatoes.
standards already for this use.
Yeah, well, I think we're covered. We changed it to permitted use.
Yeah.
I think we have consensus on that.
I think that should be no, land-based agriculture. It's no everywhere else.
Correct. I agree.
Obviously.
I think we have a consensus on land-based aquaculture.
Probably gonna be no for private stable.
Is that correct?
I mean, are we gonna,
In these areas, yeah.
I mean,
I'm only gonna say something when I have something different recorded, like if the consolidated district is represented differently, I'll only tell you then.
commercial stable or riding academy, I think that's no.
Yeah, those are no.
Correct?
And I know this goes without saying, but although they're no everywhere, the existing uses will stay, the pre-existing.
There'll be pre-existing
Yes.
non-conforming uses.
We're working on a zoning update for stables and kennels and things, and a commercial stable versus like keeping 2 horses in your backyard kind of thing.
Where there are blanks, it's because the form-based code table did not have these uses. We need to fill them in now, I assume we're just going to follow, right?
Right.
So what are we working on now?
We're getting there,
Filling in
Stu.
the blanks here.
Oh,
I have blanks at the medical center up to 20,000 square feet. I don't know what you want to do there.
That's
That was permitted in Main Road. In the consolidated district, it's a permitted use.
So you could make it a P in all 3.
How do we feel?
I'm fine with that.
yeah.
I have to imagine the next one is not permitted though, given the size.
Correct.
Steve, how do you feel about medical center up to 20,000 square feet?
Good,
Permitted?
yes.
Right, right.
Permitted.
But not permitted
20 to 40.
20 to 40.
Got it.
And-
Daycare center was a special use permit in the TMS zone previously.
We have permitted.
It's
Yeah,
permitted
I
in
would
the two
imagine
other.
that could be permitted with performance criteria.
Yeah.
Does everyone agree?
Mhm.
Yep. Private trade school.
Hang on, I think did you skip the top one?
I think that
Daycare.
continues from the daycare bill. That's J.
It's a left, it's part of the
Oh,
cell.
it's all part of, okay, sorry.
Wait a second. Well, I mean, a private school pre-K to 12, which is J,
Okay?
that was in the combined code, in the combined districts, we had that as a,
Which
The
one?
private school, pre-K to 12?
New daycare,
yeah.
Yes.
private,
We had that as a no.
oh, and it's permitted right
It may be that it's currently
Yeah.
permitted,
Yep.
so it didn't get flipped to an N, and the zoning revision committee has changed that designation. So,
Exactly right.
I mean, ultimately, this group has to weigh in on that, those recommendations too.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, that was the recommendation.
The recommendation of the committee was to turn all of those schools, so the private school, the junior college, the private trade are all not permitted.
Correct. Because of parking, as I recall,
In the form-based code.
In the,
area.
yeah,
in the form-based code.
so that got changed by the committee.
So everybody agrees with that?
Is that what we all agree? No's?
Fine.
Are we okay with the singing school in that zone?
Yeah, that was okay.
That one is permitted.
It's just gonna take me a minute.
We're saying N is permitted. School conducted as a private
Correct.
education. Yeah, that's like hoping. to make
I'm just gonna give Todd a chance to catch up.
My assumption though, the cemetery in those codes, we have N, but S, those would stay N, right, they wouldn't be special permit use in the three.
That going those methods together, I think only that community was like, we have one that's pre-existing and non-conforming, but we don't really know cemeteries, so we can, swap corners.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then the N is permitted.
The school conducted as private, okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cemeteries, what do you want?
No.
That's not permitted.
I mean, we have one pre-existing non-conforming, but I don't think we need another cemetery on Main Road.
It is a cemetery.
Columbarium, yes.
I have that as an N.
Yeah,
You have
In the
that as
form-based
an-
codes?
yeah, the zoning update committee said that was an N in that zone.
Okay, I'll go with that.
No's, that's consensus?
No is a consensus.
Pharmacy without drive-through.
That's a
Yes.
P.
What-
That's a
what
P,
was that?
It's a
permitted.
P.
Okay,
Permitted in all three.
okay.
Pharmacy with drive-through.
S.
What was it?
S.
S.
Okay.
Do you agree?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Electric power station.
No. You can put Ns all the way down to F.
Does everyone agree with that as to these public utility uses, I'll call it?
In those three districts, yeah, I agree with that.
And what about public utility structure not otherwise?
F is a P.
F is a P, yes.
You have an N there. Somewhere
I
there's
don't.
an N. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a,
Open space is N.
okay.
Public utility structure not otherwise specified?
What's an N?
driving T or range.
Before you go back, can we go back to E and the other one? I thought we got rid of water tower. We had water tank, but we had said no to water towers.
Water towers would be a prohibited use?
No, you kept it, and it's permitted in the industrial.
Okay.
Well, you know, we had it in the use table. in
And you have a
previous
performance
revisions.
standard for it, so.
A water tank. But I thought we would actually, we were gonna put a hold on all these till we talked to the water.
So I think
towers.
what we did before was I think we inserted water tank,
inserted
and
water
then we
tank.
took it back out because we agreed that we should not attempt to regulate those without a discussion with the water districts
So we should,
first.
so then we can just leave water tower but turn them all to ends for now?
It's
It's
a
the same thing, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
the same issue.
It is.
So I would just make them ends across the board till we sorted out
Till
the
we-
water districts.
So that would mean you would be changing the P in the industrial to an N.
Yes,
Just a minute.
it would be no across the board in all zones
You're gonna wait a minute.
until we sort this out.
We talked about performance criteria for water towers. They're in what we just went through. If you want it to be a no, that's fine.
Where, what was the,
We have performance criteria for water towers.
what is it
I
say
like the
for-
color. I
Shall not
remember that
exceed the
discussion.
maximum height allowed for structures in the zoning district. Painted with a neutral color. Not used for displaying any advertising.
All right.
Signage at the entrance, security plan. Federal Aviation Administration compliant.
I think somehow, I think.
Shall be
some-
for use of the municipality or public utility.
I think those performance, I think somehow the wires got crossed. Those were the performance standards if we were gonna have
Fine.
water tanks. Because if you think about it, if the zoning height is only 35 feet, you're not gonna have a water, you can't have a there's no such thing as a water tower
that's
that's
35 feet.
So I think we crossed wires there. But I think either way, until we sort it out with the water districts, we should just make anything that's related to, storage of water an N until we find out what they can want us to do or not do.
Am I deleting the performance criteria?
Is
Like
there, is there a harm to
Up
keep it in?
above Picasset Cemetery, you got that huge water tank
Exactly.
sitting there. And, you
Well, the
know,
ones that are here, if they're in operation, would be grandfathered.
Well, I know they're grandfathered,
Yeah.
but I could see where you may need that somewhere else
You
with the shortage of water.
You might, but we want to talk to the water authorities,
Yeah.
because they are having a problem now with
Yeah.
private water tanks.
So the question is, if we're no across the board until we,
Do you want to
get-
delete the performance
Exactly.
standards?
Is there a harm or foul keeping it in there?
I suppose not, but what good are they if you,
If it's not permitted?
I would delete them, but save them someplace.
Yeah, so it-
Start
they-
getting-
they-
We have them.
We'll-
If we need them
we'll
again,
need
we're
them
not
again.
reinventing the wheel.
Because water tanks will be, we will be building more water tanks.
Assuming there's water to fill the water tank. It'd be like the Bermudians that have cisterns.
Recreational uses, driving tees,
No.
range. No mini golf in Tiverton.
So, that's good. Nice and.
No
Is
mini
that-
golf.
Was, what was the?
It was a no.
Recommendation for the form-based combined was previously special use.
I honestly don't.
Only in the PFD.
We had special
We used to
permit
have
in
one.
PFD.
You had it as a special use permit in PFD only, and the committee's recommendation when we combine them is, it's a no.
I support that recommendation.
Is that like Top Golf too?
I don't think you'd be able to get a top
No,
off in something like this.
That's
but-
an indoor recreation.
Okay. It's recreation uses though.
Well, we still have to figure out indoor recreation.
But we have
We don't have.
we
that.
don't have a definition.
We don't have a definition yet for that.
I would think that would qualify as indoor recreation, but
We would
My
certainly-
opinion is that I don't see any harm or foul with a mini golf course somewhere in town, man, but.
Yeah, there are other places you could put it. I mean, you could put one in general commercial, you could put one in the industrial park, like, there are other places. I just don't, there's no lots on Main Road.
You
to
can't,
put-
they're all
they're not,
no's.
they're all, it's
Yeah.
all no's.
Well, I know, but that's because we don't have a, oh, actually, I take that back. We did, I will say this, not that we've done it, but the zoning update committee did recommend that you could have, a driving range or miniature golf course, in the general commercial zone. We haven't gotten that far
We haven't
yet.
gotten that
We
far
haven't gotten
yet.
that far yet, but there is a recommendation for that.
Okay.
You could change, I mean, you could change it now if you wanted.
So is that not here, right? Is that?
We haven't done that, we haven't
We
passed
haven't done
that
it.
forward
But that-
yet.
But it doesn't have any performance criteria yet, so I just leave it that way for now. Was it ever anywhere within yes any place before?
So there used to, back in the day, going way back, because I was a kid, on Crandall Road, where the Victory Church is now, it used to be Brand Towels, and before that it was the Golden Earring. And when it was Brand Towels, there was a mini golf course and batting cages. You can see it's all overgrown now.
Before January 2001, 2024, special use in general commercial and highway commercial.
Yeah. So I think it can go back to those, but it needs to have, it's gonna either need permitted with performance criteria or special use for, and we just haven't gotten that far yet. This might be
Well, I
like,
think you did, and the decision was to not flip it back, because if you had considered flipping it back, we would have written you the performance standards or the criteria by now.
no, I'm in the general commercial and highway
Right,
commercial.
but I'm saying that we changed it to no as part of the version where we turned all the S's to N's, and then the planning board went through that and decided which previous S's were gonna come back as S's so that we could draft you the required standards for it, and you chose not to flip this back to an S because we would have written criteria for it.
Yes.
Not to say you can't change your mind,
Right.
but that was, the original decision was not to move it back to an S in general commercial.
Well, that might have been when we were going through potential special use criteria, but the zoning update committee did recommend that it becomes an S somewhere, so.
Okay.
We can just leave it N for now. and
It's
we'll-
7:40, it's no.
It's on the list to get fixed. I don't think anybody's gonna build one this winter.
No.
Municipal and commercial swimming pools, TMS and neighborhood business.
Those were not.
We have no, I have no.
Is that what everyone agrees? Stephen? Swimming pool as an accessory use, TMS zone.
I have a P for the consolidated.
Yeah.
It's permitted in the others.
Yes,
Yeah,
permitted.
with performance criteria, I think that's
Right.
fine. And all
We don't
that.
have any performance criteria for a swimming pool as an accessory use.
Great point, but then it would be controlled by,
It had to be secondary to the principal use.
and then the setbacks
Yeah.
everything, yeah, okay, so I'm fine with it being a P.
Everyone agree?
Yeah.
Yep.
Indoor commercial recreation.
It's an N.
We need to discuss that more and have a definition of exactly what that means, but I would, I don't know. What did
What
the
is it on the
committee?
combined, or the proposed combined?
No.
Okay.
The committee is saying no at this
Until
point.
there's a definition.
Until there's a definition, that's
Until
fine.
there's a discussion and a definition of exactly what.
Okay.
So everything's no then.
So everybody agrees to no until we have a definition.
Bank or credit union.
Why wouldn't, what's the proposed combined on that one?
Which,
No,
I'm
sorry.
sorry, where are you?
Without it, if it doesn't have a
Next page.
drive-through, it's permitted. If it does have a
Section 7.
drive-through, it's an S.
It doesn't look like we call that out,
It's
so.
permitted.
Go down a little further.
For what?
Yeah, 'cause
Drive-through
it's
is
any of the
different.
above, remember?
The drive-through is different. The drive-through sits on its own line,
Any above, okay, includes a drive-through, okay.
which
So-
made it an S.
Yeah, so we should go back up to,
Bank or credit union.
and
So
make
it's
that a P.
It's a P,
Mhm.
and then with a drive-through, it's an S.
What's it, is in the proposed consolidated, are they, is it P?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which would mean that we change the two N's to Ps as well,
Yes,
to the left of it?
yes. Are you looking at what it was originally?
Yeah. That was my mistake. That should be a P anyways.
And then with the special use with the drive-through is a special use in all three.
And it was a special use originally in the PFD zone.
So it would be,
But what do you want for
it would
the,
be a special use in all three.
all three?
That's,
Fine with
at
that.
least that's what,
Anything that has a drive-through is a special use permit.
Restaurant including entertainment in the neighborhood business zone was previously
So-
special use.
it's a special use in the combined zone.
It's permitted in the other two zones
No, but anything that
previously.
has-
So what do you want today?
Anything that has entertainment is a special use permit.
So change those across the board to special.
Same with bar, tavern. That's,
Special use permit.
Without or without?
It says without or without. With or without.
without, excuse me.
Where's the,
So what do you want? Bar with or without entertainment?
That's a special
Well,
use.
if there's the potential for with, then it should be special use.
That's what it is in the consolidated one, is a special
but I think
use.
it's supposed to be, it's all supposed to be a special use, if it's a bar, as opposed to a restaurant, like.
So
Well, that's what we have.
What?
that's what it was previously. They were all special use permits before. They got turned to Ns and we're putting it back to Ss.
Right.
Is that what everyone agrees to?
Yep.
Yep.
Then you have a bar with adult entertainment,
That's
not
an
permitted. Theater or concert hall,
That's an N.
With adult entertainment, there's one S though, right, in general commercial?
There's
That's
highway
because we
commercial.
need to have,
I still have a question about the way the special use criteria, and just the way that this is written, right?
With or without entertainment,
We've changed the language in the table for bar or nightclub from without adult entertainment to with or without entertainment, not including adult, right?
yes.
So, but in the special use criteria, we're still using the language bar or nightclub without adult entertainment.
Okay, so I need to change that.
So it should be bar or nightclub with or without entertainment. Not including adult entertainment is what the use
Yeah.
says. But then we also need to add, okay, so then that one is with adult entertainment.
which is consistent.
Yes, that is what the use table identifier is for those.
Theater and concert hall, you said no?
I have that as an N.
Any of the above uses with a drive-through?
I have an
Wouldn't that
N.
be?
What?
No,
Please.
it's fine, no. Ashley's
In the
fine.
PFD before, it was special use, Bill, so if you think one of these uses should have,
I'm just,
The
for
drive-through.
consistency, elsewhere where we have called out drive-through, we're saying special use permit.
for those uses, of those
For those
commercial types
uses.
of uses.
Okay.
So this is a drive-through for a restaurant, bar.
And we had said, I remember this discussion, because Steve felt that the wave of the future is drive-through restaurants, but, okay.
We don't want them. Well, like,
The
I was
com-
thinking
I
like a
can't disagree.
McDonald's. 'Cause
There would be no fast food
The
restaurants.
zoning revision committee said no drive-throughs
I'm
for
trying to think of, like,
restaurants
what's a
in
drive-through
those
restaurant?
districts.
Yeah.
What do you want?
I
Change
mean,
it to no.
actually, according to this.
Change it to no, please.
According to this table, you can't have any drive-throughs on any restaurants anywhere in town.
Correct.
Is
I feel like
correct.
this is
Only,
a Seinfeld
only banks and
episode.
pharmacies.
No drive-through for you.
You all understand that, right? No drive-throughs in Tiverton.
No,
For
no,
restaurants.
No.
Like, isn't
You can have them for banks and pharmacies.
For restaurants.
Yes. Nope, that's a restaurant.
Not for restaurants.
It is only because the current environment where drive-throughs and restaurants mix are the McDonald's.
But to VA's point, that's also Dunkin' Donuts.
But I'm okay with the Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, we've got too many already.
Oh, yeah, they're both coffee shops.
Okay, service, businesses,
Laundromat, dry cleaning.
that's a.
No.
Nope, that is a P, permitted. Because if you keep going, I believe it says that does not process on site,
Correct.
so it's permitted.
Yeah, that's permitted, that's right.
Is that what you want? Permitted?
I would say yes.
Yep.
Funeral homes.
Mortuary.
Mortuary or funeral home?
That's an N.
What does everyone want? Main Street and pedestrian friendly.
Well, I mean, there's a grandfathered funeral home
Okay.
north end of town, so
You don't need any more?
I'm not implying, but
It will not be a crematorium. Those are prohibited.
yes.
I think we should go
We
along
want-
with the recommendation of the zoning revision committee.
And that was?
No.
No,
Not on Main Road, any,
Yeah,
there's
I
a
just think
grandfathered
that-
one on Main Road.
Yeah, and I think the cars for processions and stuff on Main Road just becomes a challenge.
Veterinary office or animal hospital.
what's a P?
It's permitted in the PFD. Zoning ordinance committee is suggesting a P in the combined zone if that ever
Yes,
materializes.
yes, that's correct.
That's fine, and we
That's
have
fine.
performance.
You do have performance standards. So I have pet grooming as a P with a note that we need to have performance criteria to limit them to 3 washing stations prohibiting outdoor kennels.
Yes.
Yes, that's what we discussed.
Those are not written yet. That's why it's a no across the board.
Okay?
I thought, what did we, that language is familiar, I thought we,
We talked.
We had
about this.
discussed it.
Talked about it.
yeah.
Some felt as though it wasn't complete.
We talked about it, because the washing stations are 500 gallons a day per washing station per DEM, so they can burn through a lot, you know. So 3's fine, but if somebody opens up one of those 10-station dog washing places, that's a lot of water. And we agreed that a pet grooming place could also have accessory sales of pet stuff.
Yeah,
Is it just that that's not done yet? That criteria is not done, correct? That's what we're saying.
but we don't have the performance standards on that yet, but let's permit it and wait for
Well,
Ashley
I
to.
mean, the performance.
That's not that hard to write, we
Yeah.
just
I
need
mean,
to
we
put
could
it in
give-
there.
I mean, we could let Ashley and Todd just write it. It's, you know, limited to 3 washing stations, no outdoor kennels.
Can you just
and-
I
make
mean,
a
you
note
just
in your
rattled that
version
off.
and,
And, you know, and.
That we need to-
Accessory sales of,
Pet
dog
products.
accessories are permitted.
Like the one we already have.
Accessory sales.
Outdoor
Yeah,
3
the
washing
one we already have,
stations
yeah. It's fine.
and outdoor kennels are prohibited. And we'll have to insert that into the correct location, and then you can change, we would we would change I only have it permitted on Main Road. But if you have those standards, you may want to permit it in
Commercial?
general
Highway commercial?
commercial and highway commercial, I would think.
And why not PSC
Yeah,
and PSC? It could go on all of them.
Yeah, it could.
Right.
It's not a problem.
With those standards, you want it in the 2 commercial, and the 3 form-based code?
That's correct.
I would be fine with that.
Yep.
Now, is this dedicated pet grooming? I mean, like a veterinary and I could see a vet hospital or veterinary ending up needing to groom an animal
That'd be accessory to.
as far
to-
as,
this is the primary function is pet grooming.
Yeah.
okay,
So it'd be like that business
Yeah.
on the corner of Main
Sure.
and Randolph.
yeah. But it would not permit an accessory.
No.
What do you mean it would not permit an
Use.
accessory?
I mean, for an animal hospital or,
It wouldn't prevent them from having the ability to wash an animal.
Wash an animal.
As part of their
Yeah.
veterinary care.
Correct.
Okay, general automotive in the PFD zones?
I have no.
Vehicle rental agency?
I have a no.
No's? Steve?
Okay, no.
No. Speak up if you think it should be.
No, I'm okay with it, really.
I'm having a hard time
disappointed.
picturing Avis deciding to come to Tiverton. We're gonna open up an Avis location in Tiverton.
Self-service car wash in the PFD?
That's a no.
I thought we had no because of the water.
I have no's across the whole,
You do.
For vehicle rental or self-service?
for self-service car wash. Can't wash your car.
Marina and boat yards in the form-based code zones?
No.
Yeah, can't do that.
Why does it say storage, repair, and sales of boats and marine accessories are permitted in the form-based codes?
That's what it has,
That's what
that's what's permitted right now.
That's what it used to be.
that's what it still is.
Right.
I think that's
No,
the,
we changed it to no.
But
No,
that
nobody
hasn't
changed it,
actually
no.
happened. That's just what the zoning revision committee would allow or would recommend. This is what it actually is right now. They're
Oh.
permitted.
So let's go with the zoning revision committee.
no, hang on a second. It says over here, in the notes, this makes, this.
They're
makes sense.
permitted if there's no
Sales of boats
storage
and
or
marine
repair.
accessories is permitted if there's no storage or repair of boats.
So it's just boat sales.
It's just sales.
Okay, that makes sense. That would be permitted, yeah. Okay, the note.
Is that an S then?
Wait a minute, this,
That's an existing restriction from the form-based code use table.
right, I don't think so. I don't think this was in the zoning code when we talked about this at the zoning update committee. And we had talked about not having automobile dealerships on Main Road, so I don't know why we want a boat dealership on Main Road either.
Well, it's very possible that the zoning revision committee proposed to change this, but we haven't done that yet.
Right, but I
So if you want to go with that now, you can change it.
I think it should be a no. Now, if you have a retail store, right, and you happen to be selling, because we haven't specified retail, right? We just say
That's the next
retail
section.
now. It's just general retail, right?
Correct.
So you could sell, if you want to have a chandlery or something, that's fine, you could do that. But I don't think that we want a boat dealership on Main Road. I think those should be
Bill?
no's.
I'm fine moving that to no.
Janice?
I am too.
Yeah?
Does everybody agree with no?
Yeah.
Okay.
you need to do that? Because it's not really there.
But it is there.
Okay.
I don't, I want to be transparent that it was in the
And
form-based
it's
code.
coming out.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Retail business between 20 and 40,000 square feet.
Well, what about the
Permitted.
top one, retail of up to 20,000 square feet?
Yep.
That's it. So it's,
Well-
the committee has it as a permitted, which is
Okay.
what it is
All right.
currently.
Yeah.
And in the form-based code, and I don't know why, it has retail business of 15,000 square feet.
Change that to
So
Okay, it's
I'm
permitted.
taking a little bit of liberty, saying it's permitted in the 20,000 that you've created
But the
here.
committee has it as permitted anyway. So that would be consistent.
And then 20 to 40,000 square feet,
That's a no.
No.
no's?
That's what the
I
committee
mean, we
has.
said no to another, in another section where we said 20 to 40,000.
Everyone agrees with that? Mr. Clark?
I don't know, it seems restrictive. But
It's permitted in the waterfront one zone,
Yeah, but,
general commercial highway.
but just,
No,
just
I
con-
understand.
just consider Main Road north of Souza, where you're gonna get a building that's
40,000.
up to 40,000 square feet, keeping in mind that the two new pharmacies are both in the vicinity of 20,000. So you're talking about twice the size of the two pharmacies. That's a lot of building, and a lot of building coverage on small lots.
So several times now, I've heard this argument that, well, there's no room for something like that anyway. But what if a developer, buys a couple of adjacent lots,
Yeah.
tears down whatever's there, and wants to build something that would be a good fit, except for this restriction?
Yep.
Well, they can always ask for dimensional relief. I mean, right? or
Not the
no.
way you
This is a
have
use
this.
variance.
This is a use variance, the way you have it. Because the use is specified in its
Right.
size. So if you're outside that size, you're not that use anymore, and you'd need a use variance.
Yeah.
Well, I just think that anything over 20,000 square feet in that neighborhood is too much. I just think it will dwarf and overwhelm and change the character that we're trying to create. We're not just attracting business, we're trying to create a well-designed, walkable, pedestrian-friendly neighborhood based on smart growth principles. And I think 20,000 is about all that neighborhood can handle. There are some other areas in town that could handle something bigger, but
Well, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but, you could build something that's bigger than 20,000 40,000 square feet, and put a facade on it that makes it look like several, individual buildings or whatever with, so I still feel it's restrictive, but if we start this argument now, it applies to a lot of other things that we already talked about, so I'm afraid I'm opening a can of worms, but you asked me for my opinion, and that was it.
So just for frame of reference, just, the CVS building is 13,000 square feet. The,
What
even
about
though it's not-
Tom's?
Even though it's not in that, no, the new CVS building, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, no.
bigger than Tom's. The new CVS building
That's bigger than Tom?
is bigger than
The point is, you go
yeah,
back
they
to
were
the
in
definition
towns
of the
and they
zone.
moved out
Right.
because of the size.
Well, no, I know that.
Yeah,
but-
so that's,
Okay.
so the new
Put
CVS
something
building
in
is
that said
14,000,
when you have
is
multiple buildings, it's an
14,000 square
aggregate.
feet.
Yeah.
Just to give you another example, the Stonebridge Commons, even though it's not in the main road, across from Grinnell's, that is also 14,000 square feet.
Could be two stories.
And keep in mind that you can have a multi-story building, so that's just the.
That's the footprint.
Footprint, so if you have 2 stories, then you've got 40,000 square feet and 2 stories. just frame of reference information.
Okay, no, that's helpful.
But, and to that point though, Ashley, they can get a variance, they can apply for a variance if they know.
A use variance.
A use variance, and a use variance, the standard is supposed to be that you have no other viable use of the property. Is that applied? Not always, but that's the standard.
I think the most tangible point here is footprint. That's, we're talking between 20 and 40,000 square foot footprint,
Right.
where you could have 13,000 square foot footprint and go up from there.
Right. And
You could have
remember,
20,000 square foot footprint
And
and
go
go
up
up in
from
that.
there.
but remember that we had the conversation about allowing multiple buildings and multiple uses in these districts, and that we put in there that these square footages are the aggregate of all the structures.
Right.
So you could revisit this, and we could talk about allowing between 20 and 40 and putting in the standard that that has to be across multiple structures. No single structure can be larger than whatever. So you're not, you don't have to close the door completely. You could have that conversation and decide at a later date whether it makes sense to open this up, but open it up with the requirement that you're not gonna have a 40,000 square foot footprint.
When I think about the spaces that these are gonna be in, it just becomes, to your point, they'd have to buy a lot of property, and so I think we should say no.
You need to go back to the definition of what the zone is, right? Traditional Main Street configuration with 0 front setback. So 40,000 square foot is enormous on that.
Right on the street.
Right.
It's not gonna fit with them.
Pedestrian-friendly clusters of businesses, neighborhood business, conversion of
Small scale.
commercial, right? So I don't know if it fits the definition even.
Unless you were to allow it on, in multiple structures. If somebody was to
Yeah.
amass a certain amount of space, that it would have, like, so I'm not saying
That's
you
a
want to
com-
do that, but that's a
that's
future
something-
conversation
that's a
where you
future
could reopen
conversation.
this door a little bit and talk about whether
For-
it makes sense or not.
For purposes of tonight, though, Steve, I'm afraid you're in the minority, and I think that we have a consensus around the table.
Yep, I'm fine with that.
Everybody agree with that? Okay, let's go on.
All right, single or multiple structure shopping centers. You have it, no everywhere else, so.
That's a no.
No more strip malls.
And mixed-use complex of up to 20,000 square feet.
That's a P.
Mixed use 20 to 40.
No,
Mixed use over 40 is a no. Retail sales with open lot storage other than display for sale.
I have that as
Business.
a no.
PFD zone.
So that's no on the proposed combined?
Yes.
Correct.
Correct.
No.
How do we feel about that?
no.
No.
Yeah.
I'll only say that the
Right above
retail
that.
sales accessory to the manufacture or assembly of products on the premises, the revision committee has this as not permitted in those districts, and that they're currently permitted.
I think that's because, because it's combined, because I think the product assembly might have been permitted, but manufacture wasn't. I don't think so. Ashley, can you look in the combined table with the industrial uses were? I don't have it in front of me.
Yep.
I had that as a no for the combined.
I have them as no's.
Right,
The two under industrial are no in that district.
right, which is why.
Which is why the retail sales was turned to a no, because you can't have it as an accessory to something that's not permitted,
But you have product assembly.
is a no. That's why the retail sales is a no, because the product assembly is a no, and the retail sales is an accessory to that product
Yep.
assembly.
Okay, so what do you want with G, retail sales accessory to manufacture? It's putting the cart before the horse, I guess.
It's just the way the use table goes, so they're no's, because you can't.
Are you going to allow manufacture or assembly of products in any of these zones?
No, I can't imagine.
Okay. Does everyone agree that when we get down to that point, it's gonna be a
So
no?
if we're not gonna allow the manufacturer, why are we gonna allow?
Why would you allow
Correct.
the accessory sales?
Mhm.
You said no on retail sales with open lot storage?
Correct.
Okay. Liquor store, neighborhood business.
I have that as permitted.
Yes, permitted.
Stu, what is your opinion about gasoline stations in the PFD?
I think we should have them.
I think you should clarify on record that you're
Joking.
only joking.
I clarify on record, yes, since I'm being filmed, I better clarify it on record that I'm only joking. No, it's an and everywhere.
Auto or truck sales in the PFD?
Unfortunately, the
That is an
video could just be
Oh, it'd be
sliced to
edited.
right that first 5 seconds. We've seen that happen before.
By a novice, that would be easy to do.
Chair of the planning board.
Right.
Totally in favor.
I have that as a no.
Auto and truck sales? No?
It's a no, we discussed that.
I would imagine the same as trailer sales.
Yes.
Recreational vehicle sales? Is that covered somewhere, or is it?
Where do you see that?
does that
He's
apply to-
asking if it's covered or if it's implied under trailer sales.
Phew, excuse me.
Like a
Bless
big
you.
RV that you drive around, Steve?
Yeah.
I guess that's auto or truck sales.
Motorcycle?
Scooter.
Should that be changed to vehicle sales?
Could.
Then it would cover all of those without question. Only we'd have to check if we wrote performance standards, we'd have to change it there too.
We did, and I would. Do you want to change the use category from auto or truck to vehicle?
I would say motor vehicle to be really specific.
Otherwise, we just took the
Why don't- why
bicycles
don't you-
away
Why
from the
don't you
kids.
sort of leave it as auto, truck, and other motor vehicle sales, then you're covered, right?
Yeah, that's good too.
Does electric cars be considered motor vehicle?
Yeah, they have a motor.
Golf carts.
Anything with a motor would be,
Motor vehicle.
What does the board want?
Auto, comma, truck, comma,
Motor
or
vehicle.
other motorized vehicle sales.
That includes golf carts.
Or
All these little
or
kids are
all-terrain
driving
vehicles,
these
like,
things
Yeah.
I mean, like,
all
where do you
over.
draw the line? Such a nuisance.
anything with a motor will be included.
And should you say electric Or gas.
There's a motor.
As long as it has a motor.
There's a difference between a motor and an engine.
Motor will cover all that.
A motor is electric.
Anything with a drivetrain. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting lost in the weeds here.
I'm being facetious.
Appropriate anchor.
I know my car is a drivetrain, I have no idea what it does.
Makes it go.
It does something.
Non-human powered.
So everything other than
We're
the
just
Fred
moving on to
Flintstone
5 years
car
from now.
and your bicycle.
That's a performance standard.
I have it as a performance standard. Under section 10. Section 11, so it's under retail.
Special uses, I'm sorry.
Right there.
I don't need to do that. Okay. Bus or passenger rail station, TMS.
No.
Do you want it in the PFD?
I have it as a no across.
Everyone agree?
I agree.
Agreed.
Commercial off-street parking facility?
That's a no.
No's? No's?
Correct.
VA?
I'm fine with that in the TMSP. I mean, I know that that's an argument to fight at a later date.
State and municipal off-street parking?
Permitted.
Wholesale business and storage of non-flammable in the PFD?
That's a no. These are all
Chris?
no, all
No's?
no's.
Mini storage facility, neighborhood business.
No. This whole section is a no. As a combined district.
Okay. Does anyone want me to continue to ask you if you want these as no's?
Let's quickly, line by line, just to make sure we don't miss anything.
Storage of flammable and/or explosive material?
No.
That's a no everywhere, isn't it? Why is that just not on the prohibited use? At some point, I'm just wondering if some of these things, if they're just all permanently no's, they should just go on the prohibited.
Somebody could come along and do it.
Make the table shorter eventually.
Okay. Eventually. Right now,
Not
retail
today.
outlet,
Not today.
retail
not
outlet,
today.
accessory to wholesale or storage use.
But we've said no for wholesale storage to begin with, right?
Correct. So that's a no.
Permitted in two, but not in the three right now.
Accessory.
Is that what we're saying? Because there's fees these in some of these.
Right, so you, to keep it consistent, you would say that the accessory is also prohibited.
Product assembly. My highlighted note just reflects what's in the form-based code right now.
So the combined district is, these are both no's, these two uses.
And that the product assembly is permitted.
What does the board want?
No.
I support the no.
That's fine. And then everything else is.
I done with the table, Ashley?
You have cannabis uses.
Do we need to talk about cannabis uses?
They're all no's except personal residential. That's it.
So no, want something different for the cannabis uses.
We have to be consistent with state law, though, correct, on cannabis? For example, we have to have it somewhere in town.
If
You
the
do.
voters
You do. in the
agreed,
PDP.
yes.
Very comfortable.
And I don't think you can prevent the personal
You cannot.
cultivation either, so that's a P everywhere.
Oh, so this is where I added the use of municipal recycling center, no's everywhere except the industrial zone. I need to know if you want to have it industrial zone or PDP.
Both.
So just leave it open, it's industrial. Does everyone agree?
What if a, like, a store has a bottle return, can return, does that fall into this category?
No.
Or is that something else?
That would just be a private, that wouldn't be.
I'm done. You're done. It's 8:24.
Thank you for leading us through that, Todd. It had to be done. We did a pretty good job. Okay, so that brings us to the next agenda item. And Ashley sent us a memo asking a number of different questions about the combined zone. And again, this is just combining the three subzones, which are traditional Main Street, neighborhood business, and pedestrian-friendly destination, into a single zone north of Sousa Road, going along Main Road on both sides, north of Sousa up to the state line. So that's all we're talking about. And so, but I thought that it might be helpful if I made some recommendations, which I did do in an email, which I hope you all have from me. And I actually made specific recommendations so that our discussion wouldn't be so open-ended. It would rather be a little more focused. And I also wanted to bring the comprehensive community plan into the discussion, because I think that when we're talking about this kind of thing, everything starts with the comprehensive plan. All zoning and all subdivision regulations are based on the comprehensive plan. So I'm just going to go through this. Todd, Ashley, if this is okay.
Question for you guys, so what is the driver of this? Like, why are we wanting to consolidate these three?
Because the zoning revision committee, sometimes also called the zoning update committee, has recommended that in this particular area of town, not Bliss Four Corners, but just along Main Road, that for simplicity's sake, and to make it a little easier to understand the rules and the regulations, that we get rid of the 3 specific zones that were adopted as a recommendation from the Cecil Group years ago, and rather go to a single consolidated zone. And I think we have pretty much agreed, I think the planning board has discussed this and has pretty much agreed that we would like to, support that and go with a consolidated. Is that your understanding as well, Ashley?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that I think the example given when this was being discussed was that does it really make sense to say, if somebody comes to town and says, I want to do X, that the answer is, well, you can't do X right here, but if you go up the road like 1,500 feet, you can do X over there. And, I think from a use perspective, there's probably not there's not a lot of difference from what you are currently allowing between the 3 zones. The differences were more geared towards dimensional requirements and design, and even those are somewhat there's a lot of similarities between them. So the thinking was, from a use perspective, if it's allowed at one end, it should probably be allowed at the other end and in the middle. So we'll consolidate the districts into one. The more nuanced part of this is, do you want to have differences in those dimensional requirements and those more design-oriented requirements? So use-wise, I think it was relatively simple, and everyone was like, yeah, that just makes sense. Where we wanted guidance from the board is the other side of it, which is those dimensional and design standards. So Stu came up with, his recommendation, which I think is a good place to start. And you guys just let us know if you're generally in agreement.
So let's take this step by step. The first question you ask, Ashley, is what should be the name of the new combined consolidated district? And what should be the definition of that district? And what I am suggesting is traditional Main Street, because that's a term that's used in the comprehensive community plan. I gave you the reference to that. And I think it captures the qualities that we're trying to promote in this particular neighborhood. In other words, getting away from the auto or the motor vehicle orientation, shifting more to a more pedestrian idea, similar to downtown Warren, downtown Bristol, Wayland Square and Providence. Buildings that would be closer to the sidewalk, where the parking would be dispersed and not a strip mall look, but rather more of a traditional downtown look. So that's why I chose that name. I don't care. Somebody might have a much better name, and I'm happy to endorse that. I just did this exercise, not because I have a strong agenda going here, but rather to narrow and focus our discussion. So I'm suggesting traditional Main Street. I've given you a justification for that and a definition.
I have a very fundamental question.
Sure.
It's still being proposed that you have 3 sub-districts.
Yeah, that was my question.
I just don't know how we're going to,
No, I'm not proposing that.
it's in your definition.
It's only in the definition with respect to design standards. So I'm saying that
I understand
when
that's-
it comes to design standards, we can have 3 sub-districts. We can continue to have 3 sub-districts. But I'm also suggesting that developers be given the option to mix and match those different design standards. So we have, when it comes to design standards, it's important to understand that the neighborhood north of Judson Street that goes up to the state line is an old mill village, and it's very different than the section south of Judson Street, which when I was growing up were all dairy farms. And that's a much newer, that's a much more 1960s, 70s, 80s commercial development, a lot more space. So I thought that the design standards in the book that we have now made a lot of sense. But to make it even more flexible, to give developers the opportunity to mix and match. So a developer building, for example, in what is now the neighborhood business district, would look first at the design standards in the book that we have now under neighborhood business. And then, if they felt that they needed to, based on the lot they have, the business they have, the kind of customers they want to attract, wants to also pick and choose some design elements out of the other two districts, out of pedestrian friendly destination and traditional Main Street, they have that flexibility to do that. So what I'm trying to do here, and also when we talk about dimensional, like the setbacks, is maximize the choices that developers would have and create as much flexibility as possible. So Ashley had pointed out earlier in her memo that we can have the option of doing sub-districts. And so I thought we would keep that, but only for the design standards, not for the dimensional. The dimensional is uniform in all three of the existing.
Does that work? From
Oh, yes.
state line to Sousa Road or wherever? To have one standard for dimensions?
I think it does, because I'm making it the most generous standard. So I will explain that, but I want to focus right now on the name of what we're doing here. We've got one district. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not keeping three districts. We've got one zoning district, and it has one definition.
I think TMS is great.
Just for kicks, I was struggling to try and do this on my own. I put it all through GPT, and what came out was pretty amazing. It called it a mixed-use pedestrian core, right? And sort of bulleted out all of these. I just took the definitions from the page 5 in here and I was like, I'm tired, I can't do it, let me stick it. So ChatGPT is artificial intelligence, right? You give it information, you load information into it, you then ask it questions or queries, and it spits out answers. It was pretty interesting, right? I didn't make enough copies for everyone to send around, but 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, it really doesn't matter. But.
The name doesn't matter that much, although I think names, I think it is important to name, to give the zone a name that actually reflects what is on the ground there. And what the comprehensive plan wants to see there in the future. I think that's important. But the name you just came up with, Bill, is fine with me. I'll go with that. If you want to make that proposal.
To be clear, the interwebs came up with that. The brain.
Yeah, but we need to make some decisions tonight. So.
Yeah, I'm fine with traditional Main Street. I think it conveys the spirit of what you're going after. It has a pre-existing connotation to the.
Main road business?
So, what
do you
you know, but that doesn't say, that doesn't capture the idea of the traditional look of the Main Street that I grew up with in Westfield, Massachusetts, in which they are recreating in Westfield, Massachusetts, even as we speak. We're attempting to recreate. So I wanted to get a smart growth concept in. Also, I like the idea traditional because, Sue, it does underscore the importance of adaptive reuse of what historical buildings we still have there. So that's why I came up with, so.
So is everyone in agreement on traditional Main Street.
Bill, can you say yours again? Sorry.
Mixed-use pedestrian core.
Yes, so it said, it spit it out. The mixed-use pedestrian core is a vibrant, community-oriented district designed to foster a dynamic blend of retail, restaurant, residential, and small-scale commercial uses. This district promotes a walkable environment with zero front yard setbacks, prioritizing pedestrian accessibility and comfort through thoughtful design and landscaping. Key characteristics include pedestrian-oriented layout with some examples, mixed uses, adaptive reuse, and integrated parking solutions. The district aims to create a cohesive, engaging community space that supports local businesses and fosters social interaction while enhancing the overall quality of life for residents and visitors alike. Again, it's just an interesting exercise.
It is
That-
an interesting
that-
I mean,
exercise.
yeah,
That is
when that came out, and I'm happy to send it around, I couldn't
That
get
is
my
an
printer to
excellent
work.
that's an excellent definition.
That's
It's a
what it-
little long. It's
That's what it spit out when he put in the 3 existing definitions.
Yeah. I put that in as the data, and I said, combine those into a single name
Right.
and a single definition.
And that's
So
what he gave you.
I think that that's terrific. I'm gonna suggest that we go with the name that artificial intelligence is suggesting and the definition. Now, that definition may be a little long,
Yeah, I
but
think
still,
we
I
can.
think it captures.
I think we can keep the key characteristics include, and we can stick with that very core definition, which I can read again. It's a
If
vibrant.
I
Yeah.
email it to you, can you put it on screen?
But to the point of the lengthening, could we just call it mixed-use pedestrian and make it MUP instead of MUP-C, drop the core?
Yeah, you can drop the core.
Although I like it, I feel like 4 letters is 1 letter too much.
So it'll be the MUP.
The MUP, yeah, we're gonna call it the MUP.
I mean, you can mix and match this however you want. You can keep it traditional Main Street, and we can use this definition.
Did you save it in your chat GPT where you could go back and say, make it a 3-letter headline? I do that all the time.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
didn't
Yeah, I
delete
use
the
Jasper
chat
out.
G, I'm having a tough time saying that, chat GPT session.
I think that the new name actually has the advantage of getting away from all of the names that we've used in the past.
It does.
So that there won't
Gives
be
you
the
a new name.
confusion of people saying, well, they're just taking all of the rules and regulations that fit traditional Main Street.
And they're-
Now they're gonna, I mean, I can see that happening on social media. So let's go with the new name that artificial intelligence has come up with and the definition. But I
Right.
think you do need to modify that definition. But this would be up for Todd to figure out whether we really need to do this. But I would suggest maybe in the definition, making it clear that there will continue to be 3 sub-districts only with respect to design standards.
Can I keep this?
Yeah, go for it. I'm trying to email it to you now.
I think Todd got it.
Can you get it started on the rest of the agenda while we're talking about this?
Okay, so are we ready to go on to dimensions? Todd, are you ready for us to go on to
This is
dimensions?
not me leading this
Wait,
one.
I have a question for you, Stu. Is the dimensions where we're gonna have the 3 subcategory names?
No.
No, that's just
No.
design standard.
The dimensions are going to, are the easiest standards for developers to meet in all 3 of those districts. So that's what I'm doing there. So I'm suggesting that that all 3 of the existing sub-districts will be combined, and that the lot size would be 10,000 square feet or more. And that's that's the most generous. You can build on as small a lot as 10,000 square feet.
So give me 1 second, Stu, so I can give you the comparison, right? For this new zone, you're proposing the 10,000.
Yes?
Neighborhood business is currently 12, PFD is 15, and TMS is 10,000.
And we did give you guys the table that puts all three of those next to each other and compares them.
Yep, and I'm suggesting the lowest number, which is actually gives developers more options and more flexibility. They don't have to have as large a lot to build on. Lot width, again, I'm going to the lowest figure, 40. Because some of these lots, even in the southern portion of that strip of Main Road, are pretty small, as we saw with Highland Builders, who are building their building right now. So lot width would be 40. The front yard setback would be 0 to 25. So a builder would have the flexibility of putting his building right on the sidewalk if he wanted to do that, as some of the buildings are north of Judson Street. In fact, almost all of the buildings north of Judson Street are right on the sidewalk. Or he could recess the building as far back as 25 feet, or anything in between. So that would be the maximum flexibility if you take a look at the numbers from all three sub-districts. I've tried to create the most. Side yard setback.
I'm sorry, Stu, just 1 second. For the front yard setback, you're saying 0 to 25 feet.
Correct.
So you're prohibiting somebody from putting their building 30 feet back.
Yes.
I don't think you can do that.
Right.
I believe there was a court case that just was decided recently that said that you can't have, I don't remember what it was for, but you can't have maximums because the law only permits you to establish minimums.
That would be consistent with the law.
Yeah.
You can do a minimum.
My other issue with the setbacks is that, and this is just me, maybe in 100 years, Main Road could look like a traditional Main Street where the buildings are all up close to the thing. But there are so many buildings there that are not getting moved, or they're not getting demolished. And I don't know if it doesn't look more mishmashy to try and have some people with their buildings come up the street and some people, I'm not a good enough design person to answer that question, but I worry about it.
So,
Hang on a second, Stu, let me just finish. My other concern about too small setbacks in the front is, and you know, Main Road's a strip, and on both sides of it, it is abutted north to south by residential uses. And to my mind, I want to get away from the sea of asphalt thing where, you know, you just have this giant parking lot and it's awful. But some of where the parking goes, or where the planning board would recommend where the parking goes, I think a lot depends on what the use is. So for example, if you're gonna open a restaurant, I'm not sure I wouldn't, as long as you had landscaping, I would say, I'm okay with more parking in the front because I'd rather the people who live behind the restaurant not be complaining that, you know, there are car doors opening and closing and people pulling in and out, because that's a use that goes into the evening. So, I don't know. I don't know how to do this, but I am a little worried about trying to encourage everybody to pull their buildings too close, and then you end up with this, like, odd look where it's stepped, you know, I mean, there's three buildings that are close to the road, and then there's a parking lot, the buildings are in the back. I understand what Sue's saying, I'm just not sure how viable the idea, at least in the far north part of Tiverton, it already sort of exists there. So I think you could expand on that and have that be the case. The rest of it, I just don't know how you get anything that doesn't end up looking too mishmashy. I don't know.
So what if, I know the idea is to combine, but what if the combination leaves the far north end? You can reconcile all the uses across and make them the same so that you don't run into that same issue of like, well, I can do it here, but I can't do it there.
Yeah.
So all the uses are the same, but you could leave, because I think we're talking about the far north end as being substantially different than the remainder. If you combine the two and leave that one, you could make all of the uses allowed the same, but you could have different dimensional standards for that area, which would allow them to basically recreate what exists there now, but not tell everybody else that they can pull their buildings all the way up to the sidewalk.
I think a little bit, my question is for Ashley and for the rest of the board, like, maybe I'm off base with this thought that we're not gonna be able to get the rest of Main Road to look more like a traditional Main Street, unlike the north end, which was built like a more traditional Main Street. And if we try, do we end up with a mishmash? And I don't know the answer to that.
So, yeah, but our purpose tonight is to make decisions. So one option we have is to, is maybe to allow the existing dimensional standards for north of, for the district that is now called traditional Main Street, to keep those in that traditional Main Street area, which is north of Judson Street. The rest of the district could have the most generous of the two, pedestrian-friendly and neighborhood business. I think pedestrian-friendly would probably be the more generous one. Whichever is the more flexible and generous for potential developers, to apply those dimensional standards to everything south of traditional Main Street. So Ashley, if you're following, and Todd, if you're following what I'm suggesting, would that work? So we wouldn't be changing dimensional standards, we would just be simplifying them a little bit. So again, there will be no change in what is now called traditional Main Street.
So you'd be taking neighborhood business and pedestrian friendly, and you'd
Right.
be combining those into one district that would cover the rest of Main Road. And
Well,
you'd have,
one sub-district. We
Okay.
would still have one district with the name and the definition that Bill gave us, but we would have sub-districts not only for design standards, but for dimensional as well.
Can I just?
Can we do that?
Can I just suggest, I think we're overthinking this. Keep your three zones, and in the design standards, say, you can pick from any of these three. If you're in traditional Main Street, we recommend you start here, but you can use the other two if it's a better fit. If you're in pedestrian friendly, we suggest you use these standards, but you can use the other two if they're a better fit. I just feel like you're overthinking.
well, I think,
With good intentions,
Are-
and then to make the uses consistent in all three zones.
Are you, okay, I think I hear what you're saying. Yes, yes.
so can I just, I
That
just
would
want to
be-
ask a question, because I think neighborhood business and pedestrian friendly, the differences in lot size, 12,000 or 15? The lot width, it's 100 or 75. Front yard, 10 or 25. Rear yard, 20 or 35. Side, is 10 or 5, and then there's
I'll put it up.
a big difference in building coverage. But that's really what we're talking about. These things are relatively close already. It's when you get to the traditional Main Street that I think those things are further reduced in some cases, and the building coverage goes up higher. So Todd just put them up there. I think the original intent was consolidation, but as we're talking through it more and more, maybe it doesn't make as much sense if the only issue is uses. Like, if that is the only thing that we want to make identical, then just make the uses identical and leave the standards as the standards. We can do it this way. We can leave them in the use table at the way they are now, because we've made them all the same.
You're right, they should have the option for the design standards to be able to choose from any of the three. I just think there's an easier way to do it.
Well, would you just then leave traditional, instead of having 3, would you go down to 2 zones and leave traditional Main Street
That's the second.
by itself?
That's
And then just combine the other two?
That's the second option. The first, I think we're discovering through discussion that maybe a complete consolidation for all purposes is not the best approach for nuanced reasons. If we've come to the conclusion that use-wise is really the only place where it makes sense to have complete conformity, then we can reconcile those uses easily.
And we just did.
The other option is to leave traditional Main Street, because we've made it clear that that's distinctly different, and then combine neighborhood business and pedestrian friendly somehow, or just leave them as they are. They keep their dimensional requirements, they keep their names, they stay distinct districts, all the uses that are allowed throughout. The design standards can be drafted in such a way when we're gonna roll those over into your subdivision. We can do that where you give permission for people to make a case to the planning board that one of the design standards from one of the other districts lends itself better to a specific project, and they have to convince you of that, and you have to say yes or no.
That's a good approach, right? So we're trying to solve for 3 things here, right? Uses, dimensions, and design standards. Consolidate the uses, so there's
Well, unison.
yes, they're
They're standardized
unified.
across the
Yeah.
3.
Yeah. Then you give flexibility for dimensions by just keeping as is. And then the same thing for.
You're
design
providing,
standards.
you're keeping the dimensional requirements as they stand now. You're making the uses allowed across all 3 districts, and you're opening up the design standards to more flexibility by giving the developer the option to pick a certain design feature from one of the other 2 districts and convince you as the board that it's a better fit for that property and for that use. And
Yes.
you ultimately have the say.
I think that's your goal, isn't it, Stu?
Absolutely.
If that's the goal, I
Absolutely.
do think I think there's a way to do this. I think that's the way you do it. I
Okay.
think you leave them as 3 districts. I think we can do the rest of it.
I have a dumb question, and this also probably has to do with the fact that I've had 15-hour days every day this week. I'm struggling with the difference in the design standards across the 3, because it seems like they're very similar. And
They
if we
are
can pick and
similar.
choose why your approaches come with one of them, because then that.
You could that's another option, is to not make the design standards zone specific, but to make them general to the 3 zones and to give
A menu?
a menu of options that is a negotiated discussion with the board. So like parking.
That's what I recommended in my memo, that with design standards, a developer can mix and match and pick and
So that-
choose
and that would
from
achieve-
anything in that big manual
Yeah.
of design of designs. There are some differences, but they're limited.
But I think the way we would approach that is to not necessarily assign the standards to the district specifically.
Exactly.
But to just say that within these 3 districts, there are 3 ways to do this. And these are the 3 ways, and you have to negotiate basically with the planning board and make a case as to why this is the best choice.
So the reality is we only have then one thing, because we've consolidated the 2, so those could be under, well,
So I
in
think
the sense of
the
like,
zones would stay the same, the dimensional standards would stay the same, all the uses are the same across the 3 districts, and then we're gonna take the existing design standards and we're gonna reorganize them basically, not by zone, but by standard. So we're gonna talk about parking, we're gonna talk about landscaping, we're gonna talk about facade design, and we're gonna take each of the 3 allowances now, and we're gonna put them under that topic, and we're gonna do some kind of explanation, I don't know exactly what this looks like yet, but there'll be some kind of discussion before that that explains that those are the options within any of the 3 districts, depending on your site constraints, your use, or whatever. You can propose one of the 3 and make a case to the planning board why that is the best option.
so what I'm hearing though from this is that in essence, design standard could be under one district, based on what we just said here, same thing with zoning, the only thing, or same thing with dimensions, the only thing is the setback. That's the thing that is pushing us back to 3 districts, is that correct?
Well, the setbacks and
No.
dimensions are
No.
the same thing.
Okay.
Well, how about if you took, and it would partially solve Patricia's problem with the looks of the thing, is if you use the front yard setback was the average of the existing buildings, 1,000 foot north and south.
Somebody's gonna do that analysis,
And if it's
and
too
then
small,
somebody's gonna
if
check
it
that.
was too small, you'd still get the proportional reduction
Yeah.
that you could normally get. But that wouldn't get us all the way to the sidewalk. But that would set almost a 0 setback up in the northern part of it,
Well,
which we're saying, well, we're not gonna be able to achieve that down in the southern part.
Well, I think you could achieve it for new development. I think Tricia's point is it going to start to look bizarre that in this area where you've got buildings that are set back, 20 feet, 30 feet, sometimes 40 feet, and then all of a sudden this new building is like right on the sidewalk. Does that fit? It's hard to say. I think it's contextual. It depends on where you are and what the building looks like and how big the building is, and you can't know that and you can't control that. So I think through conversation, my recommendation would be that you leave these districts as individuals. You make all of the uses, the permitted and not permitted and special uses, the same in all 3. You allow them to keep their current dimensional standards. And then we take the existing design and we consolidate that and basically make it a menu regardless of what district you're in.
exactly. I think that's probably the way to go.
So the standards
I'm
will not be
convinced.
district specific, they will
No,
be
No,
main road specific,
And-
but not to each of these 3
exactly,
anymore.
so that we have some control, but that developers have a lot more flexibility than they do now.
I have a question, Steve, here. Do you think, and it's fine if they end up 3, for simplicity's sake though, just looking at some of these dimensions, like when I actually look at them, there are some of them that I'm not a big fan of. I don't know if we're gonna discuss that or not, but there's a few of those dimensions that I think are problematic.
Then I think you should talk about that and decide if you want to change them.
I don't think that in the traditional Main Street, the height limit is 50 feet because there are existing three-decker houses. I'm not sure that we want new buildings to be 50 feet tall though. I think that, like,
Right,
they're
right.
they're grandfathered, but
Right, actually, I was recommending 35 feet for all,
That's what I was.
all three
Although-
districts, and that would allow two-story. So if somebody
Right.
wanted to build, a two-story commercial building, they could do that, and even have room for a roof. For
But in the neighborhood business district, I actually prefer the model where it says if you've got a roof pitch of 8 to 12, you get 35 feet. If it's less than that, you only get 25 feet. So you don't have multi-story flat-topped buildings. So I actually think, I kind of wish we could combine neighborhood business and PFD and just figure out a set of numbers that work,
You
because they're
can
so
do that
close.
too. I think that's
Because
the next
Because they're
option.
really close, but I like the roof pitch from neighborhood business much better, and I don't think we should have a 50-foot building in traditional Main
No,
Street.
definitely
New
not.
buildings.
All right, so does everyone agree that traditional Main Street as it stands now should stay that way? As its own separate
Yeah.
area?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody that was,
Tricia just mentioned.
With the
Any-
change that we're gonna drop the 50, you wanna take the height from neighborhood business and apply it?
I think that whole thing makes sense. I think that because we want to encourage people to do pitched and gabled roofs, not,
Flat
if we're
roofs.
trying to have this look more like an attractive New England village, then that's the way to do it,
Yep.
because you get more height if you
Yes.
do that. So,
All right, so we'll make traditional Main Street, we'll adopt the neighborhood business height. And then the differences in neighborhood business and pedestrian friendly for the lot size, it's 12 or 15 or somewhere in the middle if you're combining them, or pick one of them.
So I have one question from a traffic point of view, and not that 25 feet is that different, but in terms of curb cuts, and given how Main Road is, if you've ever driven on it, is the 100-foot width better because it's just less curb cuts, or does it not really matter? I mean, I'm only saying that because sometimes there's curb cut, curb cut, curb cut, curb cut, and that makes it not easy to get in and out all the time, but maybe it doesn't matter. I'm not a traffic expert.
Nor am I.
I also think it can complicate on-street parking, right? Because the more curb cuts you have, the less contiguous.
Well, technically, there is no on-street parking
I don't know.
on Main Road.
Except for the north end.
We do a lot of.
Well, yeah. but
Well,
I'm
it's
thinking,
done,
like,
but
I
it's
can
not,
pull over
it's
up
not
there
done
and
legally.
Hit the,
It's done, but it's technically, it's not allowed.
Yeah, but there's no other place to park.
I mean, I have to imagine, I mean, there's not a lot of lots that are fronting on Main Road that are available for subdivision. So this is about creating new lots. If you're a pre-existing lot and you don't have 100 feet of lot width, it doesn't really matter.
Right,
You're a pre-existing lot.
right.
If somebody is gonna subdivide, and I think the opportunities are limited for that, what do you want that to look like? Do you want it to be, and again, lot width is weird.
I just don't think we should have lot width.
I don't either,
You
but
have-
that's a whole
you
different.
have frontage already.
That's a whole different
A
discussion.
frontage requirement of 120 feet, right?
Yeah. Lot width doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
so it's, how is it supposed to differentiate? How is lot width?
Lot width is, so
Versus
lot
frontage.
frontage
So you don't
is
end up
your
with a triangle.
your measurement that fronts on the street.
Yeah,
Your width is your measurement at your front yard setback.
which
The
can be
lot
different than.
frontage is 125
Even in these districts?
everywhere. right?
I think so.
There is a footnote in your dimensional table that says lot width is 120, 125.
Even in these districts, I never.
I'll
heard
check
of
there
it.
right now, Trish, hold on.
What happens when you have a frontage that is different than a lot width is your lot is either gonna go like this, or it's gonna go like that. That's all you're doing. I don't know why.
Lot frontage shall be not less than 120 feet.
Right.
Oh, wait.
That doesn't make a
General
lot of
commercial shall
sense
be
for
100.
North Tiverton.
It's not gonna be in here.
No, I'm gonna go there next, hold on.
So it's 120 feet, it's 100 feet in general commercial, but it's not in your table, it's in a footnote at the bottom of your table. And then I'm assuming somewhere in here is a note about frontage in these three districts. Yeah,
This is what
it's in the dimensional table for each of them, right?
No,
No? What's that say?
this is
Well, let's
for
see.
residents in GC, TMS. Dimensional regulations to the nearest residential district shall apply.
So, I guess technically, there's no frontage requirement, but you have to have, your lot width is
Oh,
required.
it's the 120.
Oh, yeah, it would be the
Because
120,
Primary, right? Primary
Yes.
code says all districts.
120. So it's 120 feet of frontage, but my lot width only it has to be 40 feet.
Right.
So
Well, it's
my
100 feet in-
lot is gonna be like this.
It's 100 feet in the drawings.
The frontage or the
Lot
width?
frontage, 100. Let's see. PFD lot frontage is 100 minimum.
Okay.
But
So it
it's
is in
only-
there somewhere.
But it's nowhere, unless you look at the drawings, the actual.
It's not written in the
Oh,
dimensional.
75 feet in the neighborhood business district.
Yeah, 40 in the TMS.
And 40 in the, yeah, so this has its own frontage thing.
Anyway, that's a
Oh.
discussion for another day. Cause I would just get rid of lot width completely from your ordinance if I had my choices, but we're not gonna solve that now.
We should fix that.
It's on my list.
Okay. Well,
So the question then, so the next question is, who wants to combine neighborhood business and PFD versus leaving them alone?
Well, they're very similar. You've walked the area, and they're very similar, and very different from the extreme north end. So we could combine them, but again, I think the principle should be to go with the most generous dimensions, to pick and choose the most generous of the two existing, which is neighborhood business and pedestrian-friendly destination. But where setbacks are required, I think that, I think that we should rethink that, because I think they're way too strict and discourage people from doing, we might be discouraging some good businesses from coming in because of the setbacks. I think that the one setback that probably would be required would be a setback when the lot abuts a residential, and that typically is the rear setback, because, the commercial is just a very, very thin strip, a very thin ribbon, and then residences on both sides of the road, right behind all of those businesses. And I think you'd want to leave just for the convenience and the comfort of residences, you would want to have some space there. And I was recommending 35 feet. which is what is recommended in, I think, 2 of the districts now, just to make that kind of uniform, but,
So
So,
is the general
can we do-
consensus you want to combine neighborhood business and pedestrian friendly and take the less restrictive of
the less
those standards?
restrictive of the dimensional standards, yeah.
So you'd be
'Cause
looking
that's what
at
we're talking about now.
12,000 square foot lot size.
Uh-huh.
You'd be looking, can you scroll that down so I can see the top of the table? Oh, I have it in front of me too, sorry. You'd be looking at a 75-foot lot width. You'd be looking at a 10-foot front yard, a 20-foot rear yard, a 5-foot side yard, a 50/70 building coverage, and then the pitched roof height. And that would apply everywhere south of Judson.
Does that work for you, Tricia, or would you like
Does,
to?
the only other thing is this, Main Road has public water, but there is a possibility, given we don't know how many more connections. My only issue with the small lot size would be that's provided you have public water, that you have public water.
Because it
If
could
you
increase
don't,
the
because there's no sewer on Main Road, so, at least not yet. So if you don't have public water, then you're gonna need, you have to have a 20,000 square foot lot size. So if for some reason North Tiverton says, we're sorry, you can't connect, then,
So I have a question, just like, of the utility. This is a great discussion, but it seems like we were trying to have this discussion to see if we could accept the zoning board's recommendation to merge these 3 districts into one, and the reality is we can't. Like, we're not accepting that. And I think there's,
Well,
What we did from a use table.
and I
So
think
you
that
see-
was
okay.
primarily the driving force in making that recommendation, and it wasn't, we hadn't had the conversation yet that we're having now, and so I think the fact that you're reconciling the uses across the districts, it really resolves the main problem, which was that it made no sense to make a distinction between here and there in terms of what you could do. But I think the reality that dimensionally, it makes more sense to keep at least 2 districts. I don't see the zoning revision committee like getting mad about that.
oh no, I was just wondering, it's like, as much as I want to be here all night, I also have overcommitted and have to be at soccer at 7 a.m. tomorrow. So I just want to make sure that this, like, that we're checking the box.
Yeah, no, I mean, what I needed out of this was exactly what we're talking about right now. So if you say to me, keep TMS, combine neighborhood business pedestrian friendly, take the lesser of the the least restrictive dimensional standard, put in a caveat that says that if you don't have public water, you're 20,000 square foot lot size, and then take the design standards, make them a menu, make them applicable all like, that's what I needed. I now know what to do and can bring you back a draft.
Okay.
So this was a productive conversation, if we're all in agreement with that general summary.
Right. Right.
Except Tricia.
no,
Just kidding.
I'm sorry, but there was one thing that the zoning update committee sent over to the planning board way early on that the planning board agreed to, but it sort of fallen through the cracks, which is some very small number of the design standards should actually be incorporated into the zoning code. That way, if there's for some reason an application that doesn't come in front of the
That's why I did what I
planning
did. I don't mean to cut you off, but that's why I put in the definition, the highlighted section.
You're subject to all of them, just just because of the fact that you exist in the district, regardless.
Okay, so we don't have to have them in the zoning code, and the building official will be able to enforce them,
I am incorporating them by reference in the
Into the definition.
okay?
The highlighted part right there.
Okay, so that was my thing, because there were a handful of things that the zoning update committee and the planning board agreed to should become essentially on the prohibited list as far as design things. buildings in those zones.
Yeah, and I actually have it right in front of me. No metal or concrete block buildings, pitched roof or decorative parapet.
Hold on.
If, fla-
I want to make sure we're clear, though. Are those already in the design standards for the form-based code?
no,
No,
Okay, then we have to put them somewhere else. Those are not incorporated from the highlighted that I just showed you.
this is what came out
Right.
of the zoning revision committee
All right,
quite a long time ago.
it's late, I'm getting confused, so can we just hold design standards for 1 second?
Sure.
And complete the dimensional standards?
Yes.
I need to know if you want dimensional standard changes right now to be sent to the zoning, to the town council with these updates, because I can make them mirror, if that's what you're talking about.
So here's my recommendation, let this go to the council.
That's fine.
We are going to revise that, we're gonna combine the dimensional standards, we're gonna combine the design, we're gonna add in the restrictions of the materials and all of that, and I'm bringing that back to you. You're adopting that into your subdivision regulations. You can do it as soon as we're ready. I've just been waiting to have this conversation so that we could do this, so that
Okay,
I could
that's
have the
fine.
direction. So I would just,
But regulations don't address dimensional standards here.
right.
So-
But the
So perhaps if we're moving in this direction, you're trying to hedge, get ahead of it
get ahead of
here.
it and put it in here.
Yeah,
Correct.
so we don't have to come
Amend it
back to
again.
this, amend it, advertise, public hearing.
So let's do it this way. I think we all agree we're leaving traditional Main Street alone. We're
Correct.
combining neighborhood business and PFD, and we're taking the least restrictive of the dimensional requirements. We're consolidating neighborhood business and pedestrian friendly in the use table. And do you want to keep that? What name does that get?
well, I feel like.
Let's give it exactly the name that.
Yeah.
that-
All right, so
that,
we'll give it the
that
chat
Bill-
GPT
Mixed-use
name.
pedestrian
Use
core.
pedestrian.
Yeah, because that is a good definition for those
So-
two sub-districts.
So
yeah.
we're gonna, in the use table, we're gonna put those two together. We're gonna call it the mixed use
Yep.
district. All the uses are already there.
Yep.
That's gonna get
Yep.
reconciled.
Yep,
That can go in this draft. I will do this.
I think that's a lot. I don't want to confuse them, confuse the council.
Jay's still here.
Right? Jay can handle it. All I was suggesting is making the dimensional standards, whatever you want them to be, for this combined zone subsequently.
Well, then, basically what you would be doing is making neighborhood business and PFD exactly the same.
I think that's simple to do.
That's-
Well, that is simple to do.
Although, to Stu's point, can we talk about then the rear setback? Because they do think that a 5-foot rear setback or 10-foot, is it 5? Is
It's
that the right
5
one?
in the PFD.
I think that's, like, that's a,
yeah, that's a
What's
bit,
footnote 6?
that is, that's
Do you
a
wanna
little
take the
too
10?
tight for a residential, because all of those neighborhoods behind are residential, all of them, 100%.
So do you want to take the 10 feet then?
I don't know, I'd almost want to go to 25. I actually suggested 35, but that might be too
Oh,
much.
I'm sorry, I'm
What's
looking at the
rear?
wrong, I'm looking at the wrong one. The 35.
Right, it is 35.
I would go,
But down here
that's
it
the
says-
one place that I would go with the 35,
Yeah.
the two of them.
All right. All right, so for the purposes of this document, you're just going to make those dimensional standards the same.
I can do that.
Round 2.
No, hold on, don't leave me yet.
Okay.
We apparently don't have a frontage requirement for these 3 form-based code zones.
Well, there
It's in the
is,
form-based code.
No, it's not. It's in the diagrams.
but it's not in the dimensional tables.
Correct. And it's not, if you take the current zoning code, it would be 120 feet. I don't think that's what you want for frontage for these three zones.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Even though it's drawn on the diagram, it actually says minimum and maximum on the, like, it says that on the diagram, it doesn't count?
I don't know if that's enforceable, Trish. If that's what we
should
can
make
put those
it-
numbers in, but we should put those numbers in.
We can take the numbers from there, but what he's saying is they should be in here. If they're different than the 120, which is the footnote that says all districts except general commercial.
It's totally unclear that that's the
It
frontage
is.
requirement.
I can see what you're saying.
So we'll take the one for TMS and we'll apply that. And then I think what is the difference between neighborhood business and PFD?
You know what, I think the frontage in these are all the same as the lot width.
They are. I looked at it
Yeah, they are, they're the same as the lot width.
based on the diagrams.
Okay, so
Yeah.
in that case, we would take the 75 feet for
Yep,
for both.
yep.
And in Article 5, Section 2, where it has general requirements and it says lot frontage 120 feet,
Minute.
I will add the sentence or sentences, however I can form it, that
says
say
that.
75 and 40 feet. Is that okay?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes. That needed to be done anyhow.
Yeah.
I know what we need to do for round 2. We'll bring you a draft.
Yes, we need a draft to work off.
Yep.
And I think we can get through that really quickly, and because I think we've got pretty much consensus, but we need to see it on paper. One quick question for Todd. On the design standards, what we're doing is we're going to combine all three of the, where there are differences now in design standards between the three existing districts, we're going to kind of reorganize that to open up more options and possibilities so a developer can pick and choose, for what makes sense.
Yep.
And of course, they have to come before the board and make a case and all of that, but can we, and we're going to put that, Todd, we're going to put all of that not in the zoning code, but rather in the subdivision regulations.
Yeah.
So my question is, do we have, if we put it in the subdivision regulations, will it cover everything? Like Article 20, development plan review projects and whatever, will it cover everything in that, along Main Road? And will it have teeth? Or will the developer say, well, you've only got it in your subdivision
No,
regulation?
I don't know
you
where this
even have it in
concept
zo-"
came from, this misconception that the regulations are unenforceable. They are completely enforceable, just as much
Okay,
as
I
the
just
zoning
wanted
ordinance.
I just wanted to hear it from you. And now that
I'm so
you,
baffled by that.
well, but some of your colleagues come into this very room and,
They may say the form-based code isn't enforceable because it's a quote guideline.
Yeah,
I've already argued differently for you.
right.
But it definitely, if it's a regulation, it's enforceable.
I just wanted to be reassured, and you have just now reassured me, that if we put this in our subdivision regulations,
Yeah.
either in its entirety or just by reference, right?
Yes.
Then we can say to anybody who comes in here and says, I want to build a metal warehouse with a flat
Accessibility
roof
shortcuts.
and no windows, we can say, no, you can't do that. Because
Right, what we have
right
to do
now,
is do-
I can't really
We
do
can
that.
we're gonna belt and suspender.
What we
this.
need to do, and Ashley and I will need to remember this, is put something in the zoning ordinance
Yes.
saying that the regulations are enforceable.
Yes.
Yeah, just a little line.
So
yeah.
there-
Belt and suspender.
Just like we did with
If you-
with the DPR.
Okay.
Right,
that's
I was just
excellent.
gonna use DPR as an example. Right now, it says DPR is regulated by the subdivision regulation. So the zoning ordinance recognizes it, enables it, and sends you to the regulations for all the rules and requirements and how to do it. We're gonna do the exact same thing for the standards.
Super. Super.
We're gonna make sure that in the sections in zoning, it is directly referenced and you are sent to those regulations as applicable to that process.
Super.
Good.
Super. Okay.
So
Okay,
we
I
don't
think,
have
I
to-
think we have a plan.
So then we don't have to worry about these other recommendations that we'll just put them in the, instead of putting them in the zoning ordinance, we'll put them in the subdivision regulations some days as.
The
absolutely
stuff
prohibited.
about like building materials and
Like,
that stuff,
You know, no metal
Yeah.
buildings. you
we're
need to
gonna,
be able to-
we're gonna bake that right into the subdivision
Okay.
requirements. Are there any that are not in Stu's memo that you'd like to see?
Well, Stu, you wanna read them really quick? There's only like 5 or 6 of them.
So they're all covered, they're all actually covered by the big manual for the form-based code design standards. So it says, no metal or concrete block buildings, pitched roof or decorative parapet if flat roof. In other words, if there's a flat roof, you have to pitch it or you have to have a parapet to put lipstick on it. Required landscape buffer, including trees at road and sidewalk. Large parking areas to have landscaped islands, including trees. Parking to be dispersed front, sides, and rear to avoid large expanses of asphalt. Required massing, and within parentheses, blocking, of larger buildings to break up facade and roof lines. Building footprint not to exceed 20,000 square feet. So, actually, if you don't have this, you can have my copy.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
and that can go wherever you think it should go.
Okay. I'm good.
So actually, you'll come back to us with this, does this then go back to zoning, or does it just go right to town?
What I'm bringing you, well, there'll be two pieces of it. We'll have to show the combining of the districts, and we'll have to combine the dimensional. There'll be some zoning revision involved, but a majority of it will be subdivision.
Actually, and Todd, any other questions that we need to, okay.
No, I feel
You-
good, I know what to
You've got your
do.
plan, you know what we want. That's
Yep.
good, good. So the last item on our workshop agenda, and I can be really, really, really brief here, it has to do with waterfront 2 zone and the fact that I put together some design standards. You all authorized me to do that based on what Portsmouth has. And I did make some modifications that I thought would make it more Tiverton-friendly and more suitable for Tiverton. But basically, I thought the Portsmouth model was better than any other model I found as I looked around in neighboring towns. And those design standards would only apply to waterfront too. And so they have more of a marine flavor to them. And Todd went through them and made some suggestions and put them in a slightly different form. And I asked Ed to get copies out to all of you, so I think you all have that. I just wanted to mention that because we didn't mention it when we were doing the waterfront district, because it's not something that goes into zoning. It, again, will go into our subdivision regulations. Am I correct about that?
Correct.
It would go into the subdivision regulations. And again, it would be, maybe zoning would have a little blurb that would, give it a little more authority or draw people's attention to the fact that the subdivision regulations are binding. So I just wanted to raise that because when we were doing waterfront, we just skipped over it.
And questions, so we don't have anything around design regulations for waterfront or in those areas now. So we're gonna do kind of the same, you're gonna do the same kind of activity that you did for the 3 Main Street districts.
Exactly. Exactly, and there is a memo that you should have, which is, okay.
When was that sent out?
I don't know.
It was a good 2
For the
weeks
last
ago.
month. Meeting, I think. But I'll send it to everyone right now.
It-
I don't think I have.
Actually, I have the architectural.
Architectural
guidelines,
guidelines
but I
in
don't have
Portsmouth.
them.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
It was,
well, it's not.
is this what you have, VA?
Well,
It-
that's what Ashley's, I think, memo was,
Architectural design standards for waterfront W2?
architectural guidelines.
Architectural.
I'll send it to everyone right now.
Yeah, this is exactly what you should have and what I asked to be sent to you. Apparently it wasn't.
Or it might be in a folder that I forgot to put down.
But I think Todd is doing that right now.
Merges this I have it actually, the ordinance amendments, is that the one time? That came from you?
I did not send it, no. Steve, what is your email?
Yes, that's Clark 5,
It's Clark. There you go.
Clark with an E,
Yep.
yeah.
I don't know why it comes up as Diane.
Mine does too.
That's my wife.
I think the email is in her name. It comes up the same for me.
T. Hilton. S. Hardy.
Does she
Hardy.
use your email?
Yes.
R.
That's
Taylor.
why she put her name as.
Mhm.
JG. Chris Shriver. Bill. And Rosemary.
Me too. Please. I also need the document from tonight.
So obviously, the process of putting anything into the subdivision regulations requires us to have a meeting, and we control our own subdivision regulations. It's not something that we have to send to the town council. But I think, Ashley, don't we need to have an advertised public hearing
Yes.
to do that? So you'll have, you'll obviously have an opportunity to make any amendments or changes to any of this stuff that we're going to put in the subdivision regulations. But I just wanted to give you a heads up and call your attention to the fact that we're talking about that and thinking about it.
Okay. My plan is to have clean documents to you that we did tonight, early next week, if not tomorrow, because I have nothing else to do. Have it on the agenda for November 12th for a recommendation to the town council. Good?
Yeah, that's good.
November 12th?
But November yes, because of the election, we're delayed, and we're gonna meet at the library, because this room is taken up on the 12th. But we've got a bear of a meeting. I can think of a number of things that have been continued to November 12. But what Todd just mentioned is probably the most important thing. So I think that, if we can keep things off the agenda and postpone them to December, that would be wonderful, Ashley. I just don't want to, otherwise we're looking at a 12 midnight meeting again.
We have 2 projects
That-
in
that-
December,
And
big projects.
we have 3 that I can think of, and they're all controversial.
In December?
Oh, no, in November.
December you do.
So,
We need to do the future land use map again.
yes.
If we can get the advertising done for November 12th, that'd be okay? I don't know if we
Oh,
can.
yeah.
I don't know.
That's
if we can.
important. That's top priority.
If we can't, we'll distribute an email asking for a special meeting date. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
And I wanted to remind everybody that this coming Wednesday, we have a site walk at 459 Main Road, which is the Hicks Farm and the townhouse comprehensive permit project for, 8 townhouses?
Stu, I will not be able
Yeah, I didn't,
schedule.
and I think it's at 3 PM. It's a bad time, and I don't know about parking, just park where you think you can. I'll probably park in Tom's Market and walk over.
Good job, everyone. Todd, thank you for
Thank you,
scribing.
Todd, thank you, Ashley.
Well,
Thank you.
And so I don't think we need a motion to adjourn, we'll just adjourn, because this is just a workshop.